At that moment, Lin Feng was busy fighting against two ferocious beasts and two cultivators. He had no time to notice the crowd in the sky. At that moment, Lin Feng was busy fighting against two ferocious beasts and two cultivators. He had no time to notice the crowd in the sky. The power of the flames was growing more insane as the fire dragons moved straight towards Ji Feng and Leopard. When Lin Feng saw that the ferocious beasts were carrying out a surprise attack, Lin Feng released a cold energy. "Break!" said Lin Feng, sounding ice-cold. Immediately, one of the weakest fire dragons dispersed and turned into small flames which started to attack the two ferocious beasts. Roar! The two ferocious beasts roared out in agony and their bloodthirsty eyes were staring at Lin Feng. "Burn!" said Lin Feng. Suddenly a powerful fire ignited on the bodies of the two ferocious beasts. The flames started to rampage across their bodies. In a very short time, the two beasts were surrounded by flames and were being burnt alive. Roar! Roar! The two ferocious beasts were going insane as if they were enraged. They couldn't stop the flames from spreading and burning them. Ji Feng and Leopard's facial expressions drastically changed. They moved towards their respective beasts. Some pure qi was condensed into water qi. However, at the same time, Lin Feng released an incredible purple lake which immediately submerged the two beasts. By the time Ji Feng and Leopard arrived, the purple lake had disappeared along with all traces of their beasts. Ji Feng and Leopard were evilly staring at Lin Feng. Their faces were filled with killing intent. Lin Feng had just killed their ferocious beasts. Domesticating a Xian-level ferocious beast required lots of personal investment and also required a great deal of luck. The white-haired old man and the others were calmly watching the battle. They saw that two beasts had just been set on fire, which intrigued the old man. Her son was about 18 years old at the moment and surprisingly, he already had such astonishing battle power. He was able to fight against two ferocious beasts and two prodigious disciples. It seemed like he had inherited the talent from his parents. When the old man thought about that, he looked at the young man half a step behind him. That young man's eyebrows were as sharp as swords. Yu Tianming was the best disciple of the Yu clan. He was a dazzling genius. Unfortunately, what happened in the past couldn't be changed. Otherwise, Yu Tianming and Lin Feng could have trained together within the clan. They would have become like Duan Wu Dao and Duan Wu Ya. They would both become the pride of the clan. At that moment, Yu Tianming was also observing Lin Feng. For his age, Lin Feng had a terrifying strength. He was much stronger than most 18-year-old cultivators. "You will definitely die," said Ji Feng with a glum expression in his eyes while looking at Lin Feng. He looked like a venomous insect. "The members of the Wan Shou sect are becoming more and more useless each day," said a faintly discernible voice which stupefied Ji Feng. He then raised his head and saw the crowd in the sky, which made him frown. The Yu clan was based in the Nine Dragon Mountain chain and they had arrived. Besides, the head of the clan had personally come. When Ji Feng heard them humiliate the Wan Shou sect, his mouth twitched. He didn't dare to contradict him. The head of the Yu clan was respected even by the patriarch of the Wan Shou sect. Lin Feng also raised his head and frowned. When he saw these people, a familiar impression invaded his heart. It was very intriguing and besides, he also noticed that many of them were also staring at him. "Senior, this vein of the earth, we are the ones who discovered it. It belongs to the Wan Shou sect. I hope that you will not intervene," said Ji Feng. When he saw the people of the Yu clan, the first thing he thought about was that they wanted to steal the vein of the earth from them. "If I am not mistaken, you definitely aren't the ones who discovered it," said the old man. He had seen the battle between Lin Feng and the others. He perfectly understood the subtleties of the story. Lin Feng and the others had discovered the vein of the earth and the Wan Shou sect had come to steal it, which was precisely why they were fighting at this very moment. "Senior, how could they even compete with the Wan Shou sect? This vein of the earth, they can't protect it and they don't even have the strength to seize it," said Ji Feng. His words were like poison. "Because they can't, you think you can steal it?" They discovered the vein of the earth in the first place, then you wanted to use your power and influence to suppress them, use force to steal from the weak. In other words, the strongest are the ones who own this vein of the earth. Since it's that way, everything is very easy," said the old man, sounding calm, without looking affected at all. He then shouted, "Tian Ming." When Yu Tianming heard the old man, he took a step forwards, looking majestic and detached at the same time, as if he was the only hero left in the world. "Tianming, Yu Tianming." Ji Feng frowned. He was the most prodigious disciple of the Yu clan and was the second-ranked high official. He was ranked second after Duan Wudao. It was said that he had only become famous when he was 16 and left Shuiyu after then and trained elsewhere. Very few people had ever met him. However, nobody dared look down upon him, just like nobody dared look down on the Yu clan. "Wan Shou sect, if one of you can take one of my attacks without dying, the vein of the earth will be yours," said Yu Tianming while looking at Ji Feng, which made the crowd frown. If they could survive one of Yu Tianming's attacks, the Yu clan would renounce their claim to the vein of the earth and give it to the Wan Shou sect? Ji Feng and the others were dumbstruck. Who would even dare to try? He was ranked second within the 8 high officials, apart from Duan Wudao, who could withstand a single of Yu Tianming's attacks without dying. Nobody dared gamble with their lives. Even if they didn't die, they would be returning to the sect with their cultivation crippled. The vein of the earth would just be for the Wan Shou sect and they wouldn't have any more uses for it. And if they couldn't resist the attack, they would die. Who would dare take such a huge risk? Death or be crippled? Lin Feng was also looking at Yu Tianming. He looked outstanding. He didn't look arrogant and conceited like Yu Tianchen. Yu Tianming was a really amazing and prodigious young cultivator. He had nothing to do with people like Yu Tianchen who only abused their status. There was nothing comparable between them. "Since you don't dare, don't even try to claim that the well of pure qi is yours," said the old man when he saw that Ji Feng and the others remained silent. The old man sounded indifferent. Ji Feng and the others' mouths were twitching, but words weren't coming out. "Senior, head of the Yu clan, don't you think the way you are treating the Wan Shou sect's juniors is a bit exaggerated?" At that moment, a voice resonated from far away in the atmosphere. The crowd turned around and saw that nobody was there. That made people shiver. It meant that that person was still extremely far from them and could not yet be seen. Finally, a hurricane emerged from the atmosphere. The ground and the sky were transformed. It became extremely stormy, and in the distance, something appeared in the sky. In the sky, the first thing people saw was a terrifying ferocious beast. It looked extraordinarily ferocious and sanguinary. It also had a pair of gigantic wings flapping through the air and creating gale force winds below. On the back of that ferocious beast, there were 2 silhouettes. The first was a middle-aged man who looked majestic. By his side, there was another person who looked cold and detached. When Lin Feng saw the second person, he frowned. He had already this person when the Yunhai sect had been annihilated. It was the vice-patriarch of the Wan Shou sect, Ting Wushan. Lin Feng remembered when Ren Yan's teacher, the old woman, who had sacrificed her life to kill the ferocious beast, a flying python, which he was riding, that had allowed Protector Bei to successfully secure Lin Feng escape. Surprisingly, it was the vice-patriarch of the Wan Shou sect. There was no doubt about it. The middle-aged man on that beast must be the patriarch. The 9 sword mountains had collapsed, the evil sword had disappeared, and now the members of the Yu clan and the members of the Wan Shou sect were gathered there. "If I wanted to bully your juniors, would they still be alive?" asked the old white-haired man without sparing a glance at the approaching figure. He had already guessed that these people would arrive sooner or later, so what if they came? For many people, a vein of the earth was a fantastic and priceless treasure, but in his eyes, it wasn't invaluable at all. In comparison with the evil sword, that was insignificant. What the old man really wanted to know was, who had the evil sword merged with? Nobody contradicted the old man. If the head of the Yu clan wanted to kill a few juniors, it was very easy. He just despised them and didn't feel like wasting the effort. Wu Qing, why not try against Yu Tianming? He is the second strongest high official. Let's see if his name matches his reputation. said the patriarch of the Wanshou sect indifferently. Wu Qing was ranked third amongst the high officials, he was just above Duan Wuya. Two of the 8 high officials, the second-ranked Yu Tianming, and the third-ranked Wu Qing, had appeared in the same place at the same time. That was extremely rare. Two of the 8 high officials, the second-ranked Yu Tianming, and the third-ranked Wu Qing, had appeared in the same place at the same time. That was extremely rare. Many people were looking at them with impatience in their eyes. All the 8 high officials were extraordinary geniuses, and at that moment, 2 of the high officials were in front of them. Wu Qing was wearing a black cloak. He was extremely ugly, he had a mouth that stuck out and a chin like an ape, he looked particularly bestial, especially when he was staring at Yu Tianming. Yu Tianming looked calm and serene, he wasn't like Wu Qing who looked like an animal. Wu Qing almost seemed like he wanted to tear Yu Tianming apart. What is the cultivation level of the second and third best high officials? Thought Lin Feng. Duan Wuya was the 4th-ranked official, but was already monstrously strong. These 2 people had to be even stronger than Duan Wuya. Besides, according to the rumors, the mysterious crown prince Duan Wudao was unbelievably strong. Since you want to see if Yu Tianming's reputation matches the reality, how could a single attack be enough? Let's make it a battle to the death. When one of the fighters die, the battle is over. If Yu Tianming is the loser, I will not intervene. If Wu Qing is the loser, you, members of the Wanshou sect, cannot intervene either, said the white-haired old man, looking completely expressionless and sounding indifferent, which astonished everybody. He wanted Yu Tianming and Wu Qing to fight to death. How confident! The white-haired old man had absolute faith, he was convinced that Yu Tianming could easily kill Wu Qing without any risk. Would the members of the Wanshou sect dare or not? Everybody looked at the patriarch of the Wanshou sect, his mouth was twitching. How cruel, surprisingly asking for a battle to death. Even though he admired Wu Qing's strength, he thought that Wu Qing's talent was much more incredible than his own and wanted to make him the future patriarch of the Wanshou sect. Wu Qing was indeed really an incredible and prodigious beast cultivator. He didn't know precisely how strong Yu Tianming was, he only knew that he hadn't been in Shuiyu. Nobody knew what cultivation level he had after returning. Nobody dared gamble. Teng Wu Yao, will you dare or not? Said the white-haired old man while looking at the patriarch of the Wanshou sect for the first time, Teng Wu Yao, with his white hair fluttering in the wind. Teng Wu Yao, will you dare or not? Teng Wu Yao, will you dare or not? The sentence was resonating through the atmosphere, it was incredible. Teng Wu Yao looked glum, he really didn't dare. He had been bringing Wu Qing to the beast forests since his childhood to help him gain experience, he had become almost like a son to him, he had raised him since he was young, he couldn't put Wu Qing's life at stake and let him battle to the death against Yu Tianming. The situation in Shuiyu is constantly changing, the 8 high officials' rankings will change as well. What is the point in trying to know who is stronger between Wu Qing and Yu Tianming? Why would I gamble with you? Said Teng Wu Yao slowly, which made people suddenly look disappointed. It seemed like Yu Tianming and Wu Qing's battle wouldn't happen. The old man turned his head and stopped looking at Teng Wu Yao. He then said indifferently, that vein of the earth is near my clan, the Yu clan, I want it. When he finished talking, the members of the Yu clan gradually started moving and stood at every corner of the vein of the earth as if it already belonged to the Yu clan, nobody else could have it. He was calm, domineering and introverted, but his voice was filled with sharpness, that was the head of the Yu clan. The Yu clan was mysterious, they rarely revealed themselves to the outside and rarely fought against other people, but the fact that they didn't fight didn't mean that they couldn't fight. When they fought, they didn't retreat from anyone, including the patriarch of the Wanshou sect. Even if the Wanshou sect had discovered the vein of the earth before the Yu clan, what could they do? The Yu clan didn't care about their opinion. Lin Feng looked at the old man's white hair fluttering in the wind and sighed. That was strength. If Lin Feng had been stronger than the Yu clan and discovered the vein of the earth, who would have dared to say the vein wasn't his? As the discoverer of the vein, who would have dared to attempt to steal it? Because he was weak, everybody that discovered the qi well after him tried to steal it from him. On top of that, the members of the Wanshou sect even tried to make him hand over his ring along with all his items and told him to get lost, otherwise they would kill him. That was the only choice they were giving him, a ridiculous choice. All that mattered was strength. Each and every single member of the Wanshou sect looked furious. How detestable, the members of the Yu clan were really abominable. They had completely ignored the Wanshou sect. "You Qing Shan," said Ting Wu Yao while staring at the old man with the white hair. People who knew the old man's name were rare. "I already said it, that vein of the earth is near my clan, it is thus ours, do you need me to repeat it over and over again?" Said Yu Qing Shan, who didn't care about Wu Tingya's feelings. He rolled up his sleeves and, even though he was usually calm, released a powerful energy. The atmosphere became deathly silent. Nobody spoke and the silence was oppressive. Lin Feng smiled. The members of the Wanshou sect had thought that they would be able to steal the vein of the earth, but the Yu clan was stealing it from them. That was definitely due to their bad karma. "Qing Shan, brother, what a temper." At that moment, a voice spread through the air. It came from far in the distance. Immediately after, another group of people walked through the sky. They were all walking on condensed pure qi, they all had the strength of the Xian qi layer and were moving in perfect formation. The Yu clan had arrived, it was suddenly becoming bustling and lively. 3 powers of influence had arrived, they constituted some of the most influential groups in the Imperial City, they could turn the Imperial City upside down. Very quickly, the Yu clan arrived in the air above the well of pure qi. When Lin Feng saw these people, coldness invaded his eyes. The Yu clan and Lin Feng had a deep hatred. He had killed Yu Tianxing, and the 3rd elder of the Yu clan had died because of him. Those days, the Yu clan really wanted to kill Lin Feng. This time, the people of the Yu clan who had come were all extremely high-rank members. Their leader was a middle-aged man, he looked majestic, he was the head of the clan, Yu Lu Shui. Back in the past, when people talked about Yu Lu Shui and Yu Qing Shan, they used to call them Qing Shan and Lu Shui, but those days, they rarely came out, so people who addressed them that way were extremely rare. Lin Feng sensed that Yu Lu Shui accidentally glanced at him and revealed his killing intent. But in the end, Yu Lu Shui smiled indifferently. "Ting Wu Yao, brother, you're wrong, the Yu clan lives near this vein of the earth, they found it before you, since it's that way, it belongs to the Yu clan in its entirety," said Yu Lu Shui while smiling, which stupefied everyone. Yu Lu Shui was making Ting Wu Yao even more furious. The Wanshou sect had discovered that place before the Yu clan. "My sect, the Wanshou sect, found it in the first place," said Ting Wu Yao in an ice-cold way. He looked furious. "Ha!" Yu Lu Shui looked extremely surprised, then, with a shaking smile added, "I made improper remarks." Yu Qing Shan smiled coldly, glanced at Yu Lu Shui and Ting Wu Yao, and then said, "I will repeat it once more, for the last time, from now on, the vein of the earth belongs to the Yu clan." Yu Lu Shui then carelessly said, "We arrived too late, we cannot steal the vein of the earth, Qing Shan, brother, don't worry about that, but there is someone I want to kill here." Yu Lu Shui looked glum, he had arrived too late and couldn't steal the vein of the earth, but he was indirectly suggesting that if Ting Wu Yao had the opportunity to do so, he should. "Whom do you want to kill?" asked Yu Qing Shan. "Him," said Yu Lu Shui while pointing at Lin Feng with killing intent in his eyes. "That person killed my 5th son and my 3rd brother, I have to kill him," said Yu Lu Shui while looking at Yu Qing Shan. Yu Qing Shan frowned. It seemed like Yu Lu Shui had a few idea about Lin Feng's identity, but with the power and influence of the Yu clan, finding the clues wasn't too difficult. "He's Lin Feng." When Ting Wu Yao heard Yu Lu Shui, he was astonished. Those days, in the Imperial City, many people were talking about Lin Feng. "Indeed," said Yu Lu Shui while slightly nodding, which made a cold expression appear on Ting Wu Yao's face. "What a coincidence, he also killed some of my member, I want him dead too." 2 old monsters wanted to kill Lin Feng. Lin Feng really was unlucky, he had managed to provoke two huge spheres of influence. Lin Feng really was unlucky, he had managed to provoke two huge spheres of influence. In Shuiyu, if the Yu clan and the Wan Shou sect wanted the same person to die, that person rarely continued breathing. Those days, Lin Feng had enmity with them both. It seemed like this time, Lin Feng was definitely going to die. On Lin Feng's side, the four cultivators of the Xian Qi layer looked at Lin Feng with a deep and profound expression in their eyes. They were just starting to understand that the young man who was fighting with them was famous in Shuiyu, he was Lin Feng. Lin Feng was already extremely strong, to the extent that he could even easily kill a cultivator of the Xian Qi layer. He was amazing. But at that moment, Lin Feng was in a critical situation and they would be unable to help him. Yu Qingshan suddenly frowned, but immediately regained a calm and detached facial expression. Even though he had lost contact with his daughter and even though he hated the man whom his daughter had fallen in love with, even though he was unwilling to announce that Lin Feng was one of his direct descendants, blood was still thicker than water and Lin Feng was still his grandson, all the members of the Yu clan had meticulously come to see how strong his grandson was, the Yu clan would help them achieve their aim. Yu Lu Shui, you're talking about Yu Tian Xin and Yu Qiu, right? Said Yu Qingshan indifferently. Yu Lu Shui nodded and said, indeed. Your fifth son was neither talented nor strong, he only knew how to use the power and influence of your clan, if his family name hadn't been Yu, he would have died many times over. Now, he's dead and it could be said to be karma. Concerning your brother, he rushed into the lovesick forest for a fight, did you really have no idea that he would be punished? That's not surprising at all. Now, you have come personally here to take it out on a young man? How majestic and prestigious! Said Yu Qingshan, sounding which stupefied everyone. His words conveyed his meaning, Yu Tianxing and Yu Qiu were supposed to die because they were foolish. The most majestic and prestigious thing about your sect, the Wanshou sect, is that a group of core disciples came to steal the vein of the earth that other people discovered and failed to seize it from them. Besides, a few of your beasts and members were killed by a young man in the process. How humiliating. These pitiful creatures died, it doesn't matter, but Yu Tingwu Yao, the patriarch of the Wanshou sect personally came here, you're really shameless, you have no limit to your humiliating actions. Huh? The crowd was astonished. The head of the Yu clan was surprisingly insulting Yu Lu Shui and Tingwu Yao because of Lin Feng. Yu Lu Shui's facial expression slightly changed, Yu Qingshan surprisingly spoke for Lin Feng, it seemed like the old man still had some affection for a relative. Tingwu Yao looked cold and detached. After all, Tingwu Yao was the patriarch of a sect and Yu Qingshan dared to humiliate him, how detestable. Could it be that the head of the Yu clan wants to prevent us from killing him? Said Yu Lu Shui, trying to figure out the truth. Juniors' affairs should be handled by juniors themselves. Why would a bunch of seniors intervene? If you want his life, there is no problem, just send a junior to kill him, if they kill him, that's life, but if you encircle him, use the numbers from your sect or have a senior interfere, don't blame me for getting involved. Said Yu Qingshan indifferently. That's all he could do to help, the rest was up to Lin Feng. He's an insignificant kid, nothing more, of course we, the elders, will not attack him personally, the outstanding disciples of the Wanshou sect are all incredible and extraordinary, one of them could kill him very easily. Said Yu Lu Shui indifferently, handing the token over to the Wanshou sect once again. He was now sure that Lin Feng was her son. The Yu clan could obviously kill Lin Feng very easily, but the problem was, would it be worth it for the Yu clan to get involved? If the Wanshou sect attacked, that would be much better. Guys, who can kill him? Asked Tingwu Yao to the disciples behind him in a cold and detached way. He was going to take care of Lin Feng. Earlier, Lin Feng had killed some of his disciples, therefore, making a disciple of the sect kill Lin Feng was also an opportunity to regain their prestige. Therefore, Tingwu Yao didn't even think about shifting the responsibility elsewhere and immediately accepted the job of killing Lin Feng. I will kill him. said Wu Qing, looking like a ferocious beast. A moment before, he hadn't fought against Yu Tianming. He was slightly scared to fight Yu Tianming, but killing Lin Feng would be easy. No need, why would we need you to kill Lin Feng? Said Teng Wu Yao, immediately forbidding Wu Qing from fighting. He disdained Lin Feng, so for Wu Qing, killing Lin Feng wouldn't regain their prestige at all, it would even be a bigger humiliation for them. Wu Qing, the patriarch is right, we don't need you to kill him, even I can handle this task. Said a disciple of the Wan Shou sect at that moment while taking a step forwards. That person had very thick arms and legs, he looked extremely strong, he was at least 2 meters tall, and it seemed as if every part of his body was filled with immense strength. Teng Wu Yao glanced at him and nodded. All right, Du Yan, you can kill him. All right, said Du Yan while walking forwards. It seemed like the entire atmosphere was shaking under his footsteps. His gigantic body then rose into the air, so he could better look down on Lin Feng. Die. His gigantic hand was moving towards Lin Feng at full speed. It looked simple and ordinary, but it created an extremely strong wind which greatly oppressed Lin Feng's, and his clothes were fluttering violently under the wind. That person has broken through to the 3rd Xian Qi layer, 2 more layers than me. He is much stronger than me, and on top of that, he is extremely quick. He has a clear advantage. If I want to defeat him, I fear that I will have to use my Black Lotus. Thought Lin Feng, but his Grim Fire Black Lotus was his last resort. Lin Feng wasn't willing to use it yet. At that moment, he still didn't know if he could defeat the opponent or not. If he used his Black Lotus to kill Du Yan, he would have no pure qi left. If someone else wanted to fight against him, it would become extremely dangerous. Therefore, the Black Lotus was his last resort. A purple light emerged behind him which filled the atmosphere. A myriad of purple tentacles rose into the air. It seemed like there was an endless amount of purple tentacles. In a flash, Lin Feng was surrounded by an army of purple snakes. That's his spirit. Yu Qing Shan's eyes flashed when he saw Lin Feng's purple spirit. Even though it felt like a beast spirit, it didn't look like a beast spirit. It seemed like Lin Feng hadn't inherited his spirit from his mother, the blood spirit of the Yu clan. The purple snakes rose into the air. The myriad of purple tentacles then wrapped around Du Yan's gigantic body. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. He quickly used his full power to block the majority of the tentacles and move backwards. Using the tentacles still on Du Yan's body, Lin Feng catapulted himself towards Du Yan's body like an arrow released from a bow. The purple snakes rose into the air. The myriad of purple tentacles then wrapped around Du Yan's gigantic body. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. He quickly used his full power to block the majority of the tentacles and move backwards. Using the tentacles still on Du Yan's body, Lin Feng catapulted himself towards Du Yan's body like an arrow released from a bow. Sword! Shouted Lin Feng in a deep voice. He quickly condensed a sword of pure qi into his hands which thrust towards Du Yan at full speed like a needle. Rhea! Du Yan unleashed a furious roar. He put all of his strength into his hand and destroyed the purple tentacles which were around his hand. After his gigantic hand continued its momentum towards Lin Feng's sword, CRR. The pure qi sword slightly pierced into the gigantic hand but then abruptly stopped and could no longer move. Du Yan's hand started to transform. It became extremely dark and thick. Rhea! Roared Du Yan furiously with his huge mouth wide open. His face had become absolutely hideous, just like that of a beast. At the same time, behind Du Yan appeared a ferocious wild beast illusion. It was a huge black beast, a one-eyed rhinoceros ferocious beast. Du Yan's name even corresponded to the spirit he was born with. Roarar! At the moment when the spirit appeared, Du Yan roared loudly and it seemed like his body was growing larger. His body was now the size of a mountain. His 2 hooves stomped onto the ground and the ground started to crack as 8 very deep crevices appeared. It was an incredible power. Besides, his extremely loud roar was so powerful that it sent Lin Feng flying backwards. Boom! 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 the ground was trembling as Du Yan was walking forwards, each of his steps made the ground shake. Besides, with each step he crossed a distance of 10 meters, he looked like he was moving slowly but in fact he was moving with incredible speed, it almost seemed unreal. Die. Du Yan was not far from Lin Feng when he started to punch through the atmosphere with his gigantic hand. The qi from his hand created the illusion of a black hand that was half the size of Lin Feng's entire body. If this struck Lin Feng, if he didn't die, he would be severely injured. The sound of flowing water spread through the atmosphere, the purple snakes turned into a purple lake which flooded straight towards the gigantic Du Yan. Lin Feng used the counterforce from his attack to move back at full speed. Lin Feng was swiftly forced down to the ground by the attack and quickly jumped through the air. He raised his head and gazed at the sun on the horizon. On his body, pure sun qi started to grow stronger and the flames grew more intense. What a monstrous pure qi! If he was on the same level as Du Yan, then Du Yan wouldn't even be his match. Thought the crowd when they sensed how scorching flames from Lin Feng's pure sun qi. Unfortunately, Lin Feng's opponent was the terrifying Du Yan. Boom! Du Yan slammed his foot onto the ground and charged towards Lin Feng. He was becoming faster and faster. Lin Feng raised his head and looked towards the sun. He started to focus on his cosmos burning sun skill. The sun started shining its sunlight down onto Lin Feng. Ray after ray of sunlight started to warm Lin Feng's heart and on Lin Feng's body, a dazzling sun pattern started to illuminate the atmosphere. What kind of skill is that? Many people in the crowd were gasping in amazement. He could attract sunlight onto his body, that skill was awesome. Yu Qingshan and a few other extremely strong cultivators were astonished as well. The skill that Lin Feng had learnt was probably an extremely powerful lower sun skill. Attracting sunlight could only be done using sun skills. This type of skill was extremely rare, yet Lin Feng had managed to learn it. The sword made from pure qi was broken a few times, but this time when it condensed, it was more dazzling than ever. Scorching sword, die! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. His pure qi sword and his sun qi combined into a scorching hot sword. His sword then started to descend from the sky. Flames were pouring from the edge of his sword, leaving a trail of fire as it moved. Raya, Du Yan opened his gigantic mouth and started to roar furiously. His beast spirit also opened its gigantic mouth. It looked hideous as it then roared violently. Suddenly, multiple one-eyed rhinoceros illusions were pouring from the spirit's mouth and they formed a stampede towards Lin Feng. The dazzling scorching sword fell onto the stampede. Endless roars of agony filled the air. The roars of agony were continuously sounding when Du Yan and his rhinoceros spirit both opened their mouths again and more rhinoceros illusions poured out from the spirit's mouth. The people in the crowd all started to cover their ears. The sounds of their roars were horrible. Boom! The ground started to crack. That dazzling sword was still descending, but at some point its radiance started fading and eventually the radiance could no longer be seen. The rhinoceros illusions were still rushing towards Lin Feng from every direction, which made some people start to worry about Lin Feng. They also didn't know what kind of trick Du Yan was using, but it seemed like he could create an army of spirits to attack for him. Du Yan finally closed his mouth, but the roars were still resonating through the atmosphere. When he saw that the great dazzling sword had lost its radiance, he smiled coldly. However, when the scorching sword lost its radiance, the sensation of a sunset could be felt. Lin Feng looked calm and serene. He then said in a low voice, "Sword of the setting sun." His sword started to pierce through the atmosphere. It didn't look as dazzling as the scorching sword, but it contained the power of the setting sun, which also gave his sword a unique beauty. The sun could be dazzling, but at some point it had to lose its brightness. The scorching sword was incomparably dazzling, but after the sun needed to set, a uniquely beautiful sword descended from the sky and the rhinoceros illusions started to disappear one after the other as if they were disappearing with the light of the sun. Lin Feng's sword pierced through everything in its path and immediately arrived before Du Yan. The crowd was astonished. That dazzling sword had lost its brightness, but this was still part of Lin Feng's sword attack. It was unlike anything they had seen before. That sword resembled the setting sun. Du Yan was stupefied as well. He was preparing to kill Lin Feng when he saw the light from the sword fading. He hadn't thought that the sword would still have the power to attack him. Normally, the more powerful the sword, the more dazzling the sword became. Rhea. Du Yan raised his gigantic hand, which caused the air to tremble. When the sword and the hand collided, cracking sounds filled the air and a thread of blood appeared. Du Yan's hand had been injured. Die. When Du Yan sensed that he had been injured, he burst into rage and threw himself at Lin Feng. Pierce. Lin Feng put his entire strength into his sword and attacked the gigantic hand which was heading towards him. At the same time, Lin Feng started to condense the flames that were burning around his body. Black flames suddenly burst out from the pure qi sword which collided with the gigantic hand. Du Yan pulled a long face. He was unwilling to give up, but at that moment, black flames burst out from the sword which pierced further into his wounded hand. At that moment, an incredible pain surged through his body and his entire body was twitching in pain. It was painful, it was incredibly painful. Flames were burning on the palm of his hand, his entire body was covered with cold sweat, the pain was unbearable. Crrrr. Crrrr. The wound was emitting some subtle crackling sounds. Du Yan could see that his hand was being burnt black and he could feel his hand burning. "Rh!" roared Du Yan extremely loudly. In the end, he refused to surrender. He used his other hand to bombard the atmosphere towards Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng's pure qi sword was continued to pierce deeper into the wound on his other hand and burning his flesh. He only retreated at the last minute and propelled himself backwards. Du Yan had landed onto the ground. He was covering his wound with his other hand. His facial expression was absolutely hideous. Lin Feng was still standing in the air looking down at Du Yan in an ice-cold way. "Kill me. Do you have the ability?" joked Lin Feng, which astonished the entire crowd. Lin Feng was making fun of Du Yan. Du Yan had an absolute advantage and it came to his cultivation level, but in the end, he was defeated and was injured by Lin Feng. Lin Feng knew that it was because he had voluntarily come to fight in front of such a large crowd that Du Yan hadn't taken it seriously and held himself back. He didn't use his full strength from the start and instead used flashy moves, in order to look even more outstanding to the crowd. The members of the Wan Shou sect all had hideous expressions on their faces. He had lost. Du Yan couldn't kill Lin Feng and was even been injured by Lin Feng, and on top of that, he even had to release his spirit. Du Yan had lost, but how was it possible? That was a guaranteed victory, otherwise, the Wan Shou sect would be humiliated. Next to Teng Wuyao, Teng Wushan was staring at Lin Feng, his facial expression drastically changed. Back when the Yunhai sect was being annihilated, he had personally seen Lin Feng, but at that time, he had only broken through to the Ling Qi layer. He was just a tiny little insect. However, at that moment, Lin Feng could already look down on the majority of the most outstanding disciples from the Wan Shou sect. He was really extremely gifted, he was a true genius. If they didn't kill Lin Feng, there would be no end to the trouble in the future. Yu Qingshan's facial expression was unfathomable. Once in a while, he heaved a sigh. Between a cultivator of the first Xianqi layer and the third Xianqi layer, there was a difference of 2 layers. The difference between the amount of pure qi they could use was colossal. Normally, a higher-leveled cultivator could kill the lower layer in the blink of an eye. Between a cultivator of the first Xianqi layer and the third Xianqi layer, there was a difference of 2 layers. The difference between the amount of pure qi they could use was colossal. Normally, a higher-leveled cultivator could kill the lower layer in the blink of an eye. But Lin Feng could rely on his strength of the first Xianqi layer to hurt Du Yan, who had broken trough to the third Xianqi layer. Lin Feng's sword attacks were already so incredible that Du Yan didn't have the required understanding to fight against them. Even if Lin Feng used all his strength, when facing an opponent who is 2 layers higher, even the difference in skills would not be enough. If Lin Feng was able to achieve such things, it was because he had penetrated into a special cultivation dimension such as the sword fusion dimension. It was the only plausible explanation that anyone could think of for his incredible battle power. Lin Feng was only 18 years old and already understood the sword fusion dimension. In the history of Shuiyu, even Wu Qing, when he was 18, could only carry out energy attacks. He hadn't understood sword fusion until he was 21 years old. Lin Feng was an incredible genius when it came to swords. He had already surpassed the Wu Qing of the past, the emotionless sword. If he was born in the same period, he could have called himself his father. Of course, only Yu Qing Shan and a few others could see just how incredible Lin Feng's skills really were. The others only knew that Lin Feng was a genius who could defeat a cultivator of the third Xian Qi layer. Du Yan looked at the wound on the palm of his hand. He then raised his head. His eyes were filled with killing intent when he looked at Lin Feng. RHH, Du Yan was roaring while looking towards the sky. His spirit was growing larger and larger. It was gradually enveloping his entire body. His entire body was also becoming larger, 4 meters. 5 meters. His eyes were closed, but between his eyes opened they were the eyes of a beast. Very quickly after, Du Yan and his rhinoceros spirit seemed to have merged into a single entity. Du Yan had transformed into a very strange beast. What astonished people the most was that Du Yan's arms and legs had entirely transformed. He really looked like a black demonic beast. A moment before, it was just an illusion from using his spirit, but at that moment his body had actually transformed. Beast metamorphosis. The crowd could not believe their eyes. There were rumors that said the Wan Shou sect had a unique skill which allowed those who had a beast spirit to merge with it.
It seemed like this rumor was true. At that moment, Du Yan had transformed into an evil one-eyed rhinoceros. Lin Feng was also fixedly staring at Du Yan. He only saw his opponent walking on all fours across on the ground with his head raised, looking directly at him. His head looked half human and half beast. It was disgusting. It looked like he wanted to tear Lin Feng into pieces. Beast metamorphosis. Lin Feng whispered. He shook a little bit. In a flash, his purple spirit started to roar, just like an enraged ocean of purple blood. In front of Lin Feng, an incredible quantity of purple light was condensing and forming a shape. Roar! The sound of that roar was echoing through the atmosphere. It was incredible. The crowd could see the purple lights were transforming into a ferocious beast, a gigantic purple dragon, which seemed to be alive. Could I be wrong? Is that a beast spirit? Yu Qing Shan was frowning. That purple energy was strange. It seemed to be taking the shape of a beast and becoming real. If that really is a beast spirit, it would mean that he might have inherited the celestial fang spirit of the Yu clan. Thought Yu Qing Shan, whose thoughts were circulating at full speed, but the probability was extremely low. If Lin Feng had inherited the celestial fang spirit, why would he care about being surrounded by members of the Wan Shou sect? The celestial fang spirit could put the entire Wan Shou sect in a very critical situation, which was one of the reasons why they feared the Yu clan so much. Of course, there was another possibility. Maybe Lin Feng didn't know how to use his celestial fang spirit. Du Yan, who had the gigantic form of an evil one-eyed rhinoceros, and the gigantic purple dragon looked at each other with very different looks. Du Yan's eye was bloodshot and he was releasing a brutal killing intent. However, the dragon looked down at the evil one-eyed rhinoceros with its eyes filled with disdain and arrogance. The purple dragon spirit may have seemed to be weaker than the rhinoceros spirit at that moment, but there was one significant detail. The purple dragon spirit was the blood that Lin Feng had absorbed from a Zun-level dragon. A Zun-level ferocious beast, how majestic! Die! Shouted Du Yan, and immediately after, his feet slammed into the ground, creating a horrifying explosion in the earth under his feet. The ground caved in and a crater was created beneath him. At that moment, the rhinoceros was flying through the air and was releasing a colossal amount of beast-like chi. Roar! The purple dragon roared furiously. Its gigantic body hovered in the air and it started to breathe out monstrous quantities of purple energy from its mouth. The ground started to shake as the purple dragon and the rhinoceros collided. It seemed like time had stopped. All that remained was the tremors in the atmosphere. The purple spirit is extremely powerful, thought the crowd.
Du Yan's beast metamorphosis was amazing. It was very powerful, but that attack, which was supposed to defeat the purple dragon, failed to disperse the purple dragon spirit. The two ferocious beasts refused to back down from one another. The rhinoceros roared furiously as it landed on the ground, then immediately shot back into the sky towards the dragon. Boom! The ground and the atmosphere shook again. The purple dragon continued to sway through the air. However, Lin Feng was starting to look pale. "If you want to suffer before you die, I can arrange that," said Lin Feng in an ice-cold tone. Pure sun qi to burn around his body and flames burst out from the air around Lin Feng's body. It was incredibly beautiful. The rhinoceros jumped towards the dragon again, and at that moment Lin Feng shouted, "Disperse." Immediately after, the purple dragon immediately transformed into an endless lake, but the rushing water sounds of the purple lake only lasted for a second before it completely submerged the body of the rhinoceros. Huh! The crowd was stupefied. What was Lin Feng doing? Did he think that a lake could stop a rhinoceros? But they only saw Lin Feng rush forward surrounded by scorching pure sun qi as he immediately jumped into the purple lake. He then disappeared from their field of vision. The qi had disappeared. That purple lake was huge enough to cover everything that was happening inside. The crowd had no idea of what was happening inside as they couldn't sense any energy. The area was filled with a deathly silence. Suddenly, something broke the silence. There was a small wave on the surface of the purple lake. Lin Feng dived into the purple lake, but could a lake fight against the rhinoceros? "Ha, die," said Ting Wuyao while smiling coldly. Lin Feng had surprisingly said that he would kill the rhinoceros, but with the current strength of the rhinoceros, Lin Feng wouldn't stand a chance. Besides, he had dived into the purple lake. He can only blame his death on his own foolishness. All the members of the Wan Shou sect were relaxed and confident. They were all smiling coldly as if Lin Feng's fate was already sealed. "Re!" A beast roar could be heard. Many waves started rolling across the purple lake. The roar was a roar of pain. "Huh!" The people of the Wan Shou sect no longer looked confident when they heard that roar. An enormous deadly qi burst out from the purple lake. That deadly qi was scorching hot and demoniac, which intrigued the crowd. They were wondering what could release such a devastating energy. "Rihia! Rihia!" The beast roars could be heard again. It sounded like it was terrified and in agony. What's going on? The members of the Wan Shou sect were shaking. At that moment, their confidence was completely shattered. They were all looking anxious. The beast gradually stopped crying out. That endless lake of purple gradually became extremely calm again. It was silent and motionless. The crowd were all staring at the lake. It was abnormally peaceful. What had happened inside the lake? Finally, the purple lake started dispersing and then completely disappeared. The crowd was staring at it as the purple lake was slowly fading. Very quickly, the crowd saw a silhouette appear, a handsome young man. It was Lin Feng. Lin Feng was calmly standing in the air looking cold and indifferent. The purple lake continued to be absorbed back into his body until it completely vanished. The crowd was astonished when they saw Lin Feng. They were all fixedly staring at him. What about the evil one-eyed rhinoceros? It had disappeared. That gigantic rhinoceros was gone. What was going on? What happened? Everybody was fixedly staring at Lin Feng. They were astonished. He had died. Du Yan had died. Incredibly, he was mercilessly slaughtered, to the extent that not even a trace of his body was left to bury. How terrifying! Many people looked at handsome young man with an incredible respect in their eyes. Lin Feng had destroyed such an incredibly large beast without leaving a trace. At that moment, the members of the Wan Shou sect couldn't believe their eyes. What was going on? But that was the harsh reality. While Lin Feng and Du Yan were inside the lake, Lin Feng had mercilessly butchered Du Yan. Lin Feng had already said it, he was going to make Du Yan suffer before he killed him, he would pay for his actions with his life. How could Lin Feng do that? How could Lin Feng do that? Nobody knew what had happened. They had only sensed some deadly qi, and when the purple lake had disappeared, Du Yan, who had fused together with his rhinoceros spirit, had disappeared. Everybody remained silent, and an oppressing deathly silence reigned over the atmosphere. The members of the Wan Shou sect were staring at Lin Feng with killing intent, their eyes were burning with fury. "I'm going to kill him," said Wu Qing at that moment. He took a step forwards, he wanted to kill Lin Feng. "Wait, wait," said Teng Wu Yao aggressively, making Wu Qing stop and turn his head. "We don't need you to go and kill him," said Teng Wu Yao while shaking his head. He had to prevent Wu Qing from going to kill Lin Feng. Du Yan had already been killed. If Wu Qing, who was the third-ranked high official, went to kill Lin Feng, everybody would believe that apart from Wu Qing, the Wan Shou sect didn't have any other talented and outstanding disciples. They would all believe that Wu Qing was the only person who could kill Lin Feng. Teng Wu Yao turned his head and looked at a young man. That young man looked like a younger Teng Wu Yao. It was precisely because it was his own son, Wu Zhen. Teng Wu Zhen, even though he wasn't one of the 8 high officials, he should be able to become one according to what the people in the sect believed. There were rumors that he held an extraordinary strength. What amazed people even more was that Wu Zhen had inherited from his father's powerful spirit. "Wu Zhen, go and kill him," said Teng Wu Yao indifferently, which stupefied everybody. With Teng Wu Zhen going up, Lin Feng was extremely unlucky. "All right," said Wu Zhen while nodding. He took a step forwards and looked at Lin Feng. Bestial eyes. Lin Feng looked at Wu Zhen's eyes, they looked extremely bestial. "Are Wan Shou men's disciples going to fight one after the other? Are they planning on taking turns?" joked Yu Qing Shan mockingly. Wu Zhen's strength is similar to that of Du Yan, he has also broken through to the 3rd Xian Qi layer. Lin Feng was able to kill Du Yan, so I told Wu Zhen to go and kill him. "Could it be that you have a problem with it?" said Teng Wu Yao in a cold tone. Yu Qing Shan groaned coldly and was about to speak when Lin Feng, who had remained silent, opened his mouth. "If he wants to kill me, let's see if he has the ability." "Huh?" When the crowd heard Lin Feng, they were stupefied. He was really audacious. He had killed Du Yan and still wanted to fight against Wu Zhen. Even though Wu Zhen and Du Yan's cultivation levels were the same, Wu Zhen was certainly much stronger than Du Yan, otherwise, Teng Wu Yao wouldn't have asked him to fight against Lin Feng. Yu Qing Shan silently looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's temperament was similar to that of his grandfather. Wu Zhen took a step forwards and arrived in front of Lin Feng. His eyes were diffusing a bestial light which could make a person's soul shiver. It felt like Lin Feng's soul was being sucked out. His eyes looked so bestial. Lin Feng frowned. At that moment, he really thought that Wu Zhen's eyes looked like those of a beast, and he felt a sense of danger from those eyes. He had to be careful. "You're quite strong, you managed to kill Du Yan, but you have offended the Wan Shou sect, so even if you're strong, you are still doomed to die," said Wu Zhen calmly. His black Chong Pao was fluttering in the wind. Immediately after, a hurricane formed behind him. He didn't have a strong build and did not look like a strong person, he actually looked much weaker than everyone. "Come," said Lin Feng. He didn't need to add anything superfluous, he only had the battle in mind. Wu Zhen's body shook, his weak and fragile body then started to glide on the wind, and he quickly arrived in front of Lin Feng. He said, while staring at Lin Feng, "Look at me." Lin Feng looked at Wu Zhen and started to shake. It was as if his soul was no longer tied to his body, as if it wanted to break free and go to Wu Zhen. Lin Feng felt a monstrous strength rushing towards him, and his facial expression drastically changed. Just like an illusion, Lin Feng quickly retreated backwards. A violent wind blew past his face and an evil coldness invaded his entire body, causing him to shiver. How cold! He retreated over 100 meters and stared at Wu Zhen. Wu Zhen looked sinister and ruthless, and his eyes looked even more dangerous. He was much more of a threat than Du Yan. Wu Tingyao, your son is much stronger than those other disciples. His shaman spirit is incredible, it can influence the souls of other cultivators, and it can be used to control ferocious beasts. Having sent Wu Zhen to kill that young man really means that you have confidence in his ability. Said Yu Shan indifferently, sounding like he was flattering Teng Wu Yao, but in fact, he was just warning Lin Feng about the spirit. The shaman spirit was the best spirit of the Wanshou sect. It could entice the opponent's soul and even absorb it. When an opponent was struggling to regain control of his soul, it was easy for Wu Zhen to kill them. A moment before, Lin Feng had struggled and barely managed to escape from Wu Zhen's attack. Luckily Lin Feng's soul was stronger than most, otherwise he would have died. Humph. Teng Wu Yao coldly glared at Yu Shan. He obviously understood that Yu Shan had said these words so that Lin Feng could hear them. Lin Feng looked at Yu Shan with an appreciative look. Lin Feng didn't understand why the old man continued to help him. When Lin Feng saw that Yu Shan was looking at him, he gave a warm smile and nodded in thanks. That move made Yu Shan's heartbeat accelerate and his eyes light up. Blood is thicker than water. Lin Feng was, after all, the son of his dear and beloved daughter. No matter how much hatred he held in his heart, he couldn't blame Lin Feng. This was the reason he warned Lin Feng. He hated Lin Feng's father, Lin Hai, because he caused his own daughter to cut him off, but his grandson Lin Feng was still his grandson. Lin Feng probably didn't know these things. With a simple expression, he had made the heart and soul of the old man shiver, and had even caused the old man to go deep into thought. Lin Feng wasn't the only who didn't know about these things. Apart from some members of the Yu clan and 2 members from the Yu clan, nobody understood why the head of the Yu clan was helping Lin Feng. Wu Zhen looked at Yu Shan and smiled coldly. Warning Lin Feng was useless. He would still kill him regardless. Lin Feng, look at me, said Wu Zhen confidently. However, at that moment, Lin Feng didn't pay attention to him. He immediately closed his eyes and his perceptions and senses became much clearer. Everything around him was clear and distinct in his mind. He was in fusion with the earth. Huh? Wu Zhen frowned and smiled. Do you think that will help you? Wu Zhen then started walking slowly towards Lin Feng. A mysterious energy started moving towards Lin Feng, which made Lin Feng start to shake. As expected, even if he could perceive everything in his surroundings thanks to the earth fusion, he could still be affected by the shaman spirit. If you want to kill me, just come, said Lin Feng, sounding cold and detached. His body rushed into the sky and transformed into an arrow which whistled through the air towards the horizon. That move astonished everybody. Lin Feng wanted to escape. Chase him. Some members of the Wanshou sect started moving. They wanted to chase Lin Feng, but Teng Wu Yao said in a detached way, "Don't worry about it, stay here." Patriarch? Said some people. They didn't understand. Lin Feng wanted to escape and he didn't care. He can't escape. Wu Zhen will come back with his head, said Teng Wu Yao, sounding extremely confident. Wu Zhen's silhouette flickered and he also moved into the horizon. He was chasing Lin Feng to kill him. When the members of the Wanshou sect heard Teng Wu Yao, they nodded. Indeed, Wu Zhen would definitely kill Lin Feng. He would soon return with Lin Feng's head. Since the patriarch says so, my clan, the Yu clan, will also stay here and wait for Wu Zhen to come back with Lin Feng's head, said Yu Lu Shui with an indifferent smile on his face. Besides, the middle-aged man next to Yu Shan glanced at Yu Shan and only saw that the old man was lost in thought. A moment later, Yu Shan looked in Lin Feng's direction and calmed down. Yu Shan didn't move. Lin Feng had to rely on himself to survive. The larger groups of influence weren't moving, no one was following him. They were just waiting for Wu Zhen to bring Lin Feng's head back. At that moment, Lin Feng had already crossed a distance of a few hundred kilometers. His silhouette was still unceasingly flickering as he was rushing into the distance. Besides, Wu Zhen was closely following behind him. He wasn't slow at all and was running through the sky with ease. Lin Feng penetrated into a beast forest. Was he trying to fight him there? Was he just looking to die? Wu Zhen had a shaman spirit. He would be able to control any beast there as long as they weren't too strong. After a long time, Lin Feng finally stopped. He had finally traveled far enough. Lin Feng's silhouette flickered as he landed on a tree. He looked at Wu Zhen's approaching silhouette coldly. Lin Feng looked calm and serene, yet his facial expression still contained cold, killing intent. No matter how you looked at it, he was showing absolutely no signs of fear. Wu Zhen landed on a tree facing Lin Feng. When he saw that Lin Feng looked calm, he was surprised. He then immediately laughed and said, "You really don't fear death, do you?" "Obviously you don't fear death either," replied Lin Feng, which astonished Wu Zhen. The bestial look in his eyes suddenly reappeared. "Obviously you don't fear death either," replied Lin Feng, which astonished Wu Zhen. The bestial look in his eyes suddenly reappeared. Lin Feng's eyes also changed. Two expressionless pitch black eyes appeared. Lin Feng hadn't used his celestial spirit for a long time and thus had not viewed the world in darkness for a long time. Lin Feng could clearly perceive everything that was happening around him. The earth fusion and the world of darkness were similar, yet they caused Lin Feng to experience completely different sensations. At that moment, he was no longer in the same world. All his eyes could see was a world of darkness, a dark world that belonged to Lin Feng. Lin Feng was fixedly staring at Wu Zhen with his pitch black eyes. This time, he wasn't trying to escape. At that moment, his brain could perceive everything clearly. It felt like nothing could influence him whatsoever. Wu Zhen noticed Lin Feng's eyes were completely black. It made him shiver. Lin Feng's eyes seemed even more monstrous than his eyes. Some bestial lights emerged from Wu Zhen's eyes and rushed towards Lin Feng. However, these two black eyes looked emotionless. They didn't even flicker, they were just filled with the sensation of endless darkness as they stared at Wu Zhen emotionlessly, which made him frown. Surprisingly, his eyes had become useless and were unable to influence Lin Feng. "Not bad, but..." "So what?" said Wu Zhen in a cold tone. He took a step forwards and abruptly disappeared. In a flash, he had arrived in front of Lin Feng. A dark and cold wind was blowing as a monstrous ice chi rose and rushed towards Lin Feng. It was a surprise attack. Lin Feng sensed the ice chi and calmly moved back. Lin Feng was wondering what skill Wu Zhen was learning to produce such a cold chi. "Retreating," said Wu Zhen with a cold smile on his mouth. His silhouette flickered again. He was closely chasing Lin Feng. Everywhere where the cold wind passed, a layer of ice would form on the trees. As the wind blew back and forth, the trees were quickly covered in multiple layers of ice which slowly began to kill all vegetation in the area. How quick! Wu Zhen was so moving quickly that Lin Feng was feeling the pressure. That cold wind was extremely dangerous and moved at incredible speed. Lin Feng condensed a pure chi sword and flames burst out from around his body, but at that moment, the pure sun chi wasn't as dazzling as when he was fighting against Du Yan. "When you killed Du Yan, you must have used a great deal of your pure chi already," said Wu Zhen while smiling when he noticed that Lin Feng's pure chi had lost some of its power. "You don't need to try and hide it. I practice a lower moon skill. I perfectly understand your sun skill. You cannot fool me," continued Wu Zhen, answering himself. Wu Zhen then suddenly attacked again and punched through the atmosphere, creating a hurricane which blasted towards Lin Feng. When it collided with Lin Feng, his pure sun chi and his sword instantly dispersed. Lower moon skill. No wonder, Lin Feng seemed like he suddenly understood. Meng Qing practiced a lower moon skill. The moon and sun skills were able to nullify each other. Besides, Meng Qing had also told him that his cosmos burning sun skill currently only had the power of a lower sun skill. Wu Zhen was practicing the lower moon skill, but his cultivation level was higher, so his attacks were stronger, but that was to be expected. Another ice-cold wind started to blow and another hurricane crashed onto Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng felt like he was going to be frozen alive. How cold. Lin Feng tried to move back, but it didn't seem like Wu Zhen was willing to give him any chances. He had been closely following him the whole time, using the cold wind to increase his speed. Even though Lin Feng's perceptions were extremely acute when using his world of darkness, and even though he could perceive every movements of Wu Zhen, he still was unable to escape from the large area the cold wind was affecting. Lin Feng couldn't even dodge the wind, therefore, even if he could see the opponent's moves, it was still useless. Meng Qing's lower moon skill also created ice chi. Besides, Wu Zhen's lower moon skill was weaker but more viscous. The coldness contained within his attacks was no comparison with Meng Qing's, but it was extremely difficult to dodge. Lin Feng's eyes were pitch black as before and his thoughts were extremely clear. Wu Zhen's attacks were all aiming at his head. Lin Feng feared that sooner or later, he would be struck by the fist as well as the hurricane it created. It seems that if I don't use my full power, I will not be able to escape today, thought Lin Feng. Wu Zhen was extremely strong. Also, Lin Feng had consumed too much pure qi when he fought against Du Yan. Inside his purple lake, he had used his black lotus to kill Du Yan. He had burnt him alive until there was nothing left but ashes. However, the problem was that he was now fighting against someone much stronger than Du Yan. Another dazzling sword appeared. Lin Feng then abruptly turned to escape. If he had to kill Wu Zhen, it would be better to do it as far from the Wan Shou sect as possible so he would have a head start when they started to chase. If Lin Feng managed to go far enough and kill Wu Zhen, he would then have enough time to safely escape. Wu Zhen's fist created another hurricane and rushed towards Lin Feng's sword. Wu Zhen still had a mocking smile on his face. Lin Feng wanted to escape. Lin Feng still thought that he could escape from here. They could continue their battle through depths of the 9-dragon mountain chain and Wu Zhen would use the chase to see if he could find any appropriate ferocious beasts to tame. He could kill 2 birds with 1 stone and find a beast which suited him. Wu Zhen was neither quick nor too slow, he was just closely following Lin Feng. He had the feeling of complete control. To him this was a joke. Lin Feng was already dead, he was a dead man walking, there was no need for Wu Zhen to rush. Lin Feng could guess what Wu Zhen was thinking. In his world of darkness, he smiled coldly, he also stopped moving at full speed. Lin Feng started running on the tips of the trees, so he could continue to move at high speed but without using pure qi, he was able to recover his pure qi while doing this. Wu Zhen was acting cocky and overconfident. Aren't you sick of running farther and farther away? You can't escape me. The 2 people were above a dense forest. Wu Zhen said these words in a cold mocking tone. Lin Feng was still running swiftly through the trees and started to slow down until he finally stopped. He turned around, his eyes were black and emotionless. Indeed, you're right, this should be far enough, said Lin Feng indifferently before adding, but I'm not trying to escape from you. You're not escaping from me? Wu Zhen glanced around and saw a few wild beasts on the ground which were moving towards them. It seemed like they had noticed that 2 people had approached their domain. These beasts' eyes looked ice cold. Before you die, I will show you the power of the shaman spirit, said Wu Zhen in a cold and detached way. Immediately after, his spirit appeared in the air. His spirit looked like an evil spirit, it was floating majestically in the air. It didn't look like anything living but with the extremely cold qi which it was releasing from its eyes, it looked bestial and evil. A ghost. That was the first word which came to Lin Feng's mind. That shaman spirit looked like a ghost, it looked weak as if a strong gust of wind could blow it away. However, its ice-cold eyes looked monstrous and terrifying. Look at it clearly, now that you have seen the power of the shaman spirit, you can die happy, said Wu Zhen in an evil tone. Immediately after, his mouth shook and he said while sounding cold and detached, I introduced you to my shaman spirit, now it's time to die. When Wuzhen finished talking, his spirit rose into the air, then strange and evil threads of qi started to emerge from the spirit which stupefied Lin Feng. That shaman's spirit seemed like it had its own life. Glancing at it gave Lin Feng the feeling that his soul would weaken until it was sucked away. But the shaman's spirit only glanced at Lin Feng for a second. Immediately after, it swooped down towards a ferocious beast. Just like a ghost, it descended from the sky with an evil white light which enveloped the ferocious beast. The ferocious beast's vision blurred and then its eyes slowly became relaxed. It had quickly submitted. What an incredible spirit, it's quite scary, thought Lin Feng stupefied. That shaman's spirit was terrifying, it could easily control ferocious beasts. Roar. The surrounding ferocious beasts started to run away. That shaman's spirit was terrifying to them. Ling-level ferocious beasts were extremely smart, Xian-level beasts even more so. How could they not have noticed how terrifying that shaman spirit was? Woo! Woo! A few howls which felt like they had emerged from the depths of hell filled the atmosphere. The shaman's silhouette flickered and it landed on a Xian-level ferocious beast which was trying to escape but was too slow. That ferocious beast immediately stared at the shaman, and in a flash, that Xian-level beast became obedient. Very quickly, its eyes became like those of the first ferocious beast. It had been possessed as well. In the blink of an eye, two Xian-level ferocious beasts had ended up under the shaman's control. The shaman's spirit comes from an ancient lineage. It is an honor for you to witness its abilities. You can die happy, said Wuzhen. Lin Feng was watching him and shaking his head. The problem is that your spirit can only control beast souls, and just like an enticement technique, your spirit is useless against people with a strong soul, said Lin Feng after thinking for a few seconds and then said while smiling, I think now should be perfect. I will show you my spirit too. Useless? How audacious! Groaned Wuzhen while looking angry. What Lin Feng had just said was the harsh reality. He had pointed out the weak spot in Wuzhen's spirit. Useless? How audacious! Groaned Wuzhen while looking angry. What Lin Feng had just said was the harsh reality. He had pointed out the weak spot in Wuzhen's spirit. All the shaman's power resided in its ability to entice an opponent's soul and absorb it. This was how Wuzhen could control ferocious beasts. Even though the level system of ferocious beasts was similar to that of humans' cultivation layer system, an ordinary ferocious beast's soul, even if it was very strong, still couldn't match with that of a human soul. Ferocious beasts could easily be controlled. The shaman's spirit could control ferocious beasts and absorb their souls, but it could only entice people's souls. It didn't have the power to control human cultivators. Of course, just to be able to control ferocious beasts was already incredible. I really want to see what kind of spirit you plan on showing me, said Wuzhen while staring at Lin Feng. At that moment, the shaman's spirit moved back to Wuzhen and the two ferocious beasts under its control also rose into the air. There was a winged tiger beast and a condor lion. The two ferocious beasts' eyes looked bloodthirsty. They were fixedly staring at Lin Feng while looking extremely ferocious. Ferocious beasts? If you're not scared of them, why would I be? Said Lin Feng indifferently. An endless stream of purple lights emerged and turned into an endless stream of purple snakes which instantly constricted the two ferocious beasts' bodies. The winged tiger and the condor lion started to shake. The purple snakes continued to add more and more pressure. The two ferocious beasts were being crushed. Is that the spirit that you want to show me? I've already seen it, said Wuzhen sounding indifferent. Lin Feng's pupils were still pitch black. Didn't you say that I could die happy because I saw your shaman spirit? I will show you my spirit. It is the first time that I will release it while using the purple spirit. When Lin Feng finished talking, a dragon roar filled the atmosphere. Behind Lin Feng there was a dragon with 6 heads. Its gigantic body with 6 heads then steeply rose into the air behind Lin Feng. While looking up at the sky, it let out a powerful roar. Lin Feng had another spirit, and it was the first time that he was releasing them both at the same time. Dual spirit. When Wu Zhen heard the dragon roar, he started shaking in fear. Lin Feng had been hiding his strength the entire time. He was surprisingly the host of a dual spirit. Besides, at the moment when the sixth dragon raised its head and roared into the sky, Wu Zhen had started to panic. He was fixedly staring at the six dragon heads, his face drastically changed and his heart started brutally pounding in his chest. How's that possible? How is that even possible? Wu Zhen couldn't believe his eyes. Lin Feng couldn't have that spirit. It was the celestial Fang's spirit, the blood spirit of the Yu clan. Only direct descendants of the Yu clan bloodline would inherit that spirit. Lin Feng's family name was Lin. How could he have the spirit of the Yu clan? When Lin Feng saw Wu Zhen's facial expression drastically change, he was very surprised. Even if he had a dual spirit, Wu Zhen was also a monstrously strong cultivator. Why would he be so shocked to see a dual spirit? He probably had already encountered a dual spirit user before. Is your family name Yu? Or is it Lin? Asked Wu Zhen while fixedly staring at Lin Feng. You? Lin Feng frowned. Like the Yu clan. He didn't understand what Wu Zhen meant. It seems like you don't know, said Wu Zhen when he saw Lin Feng's facial expression. His eyes were twinkling. He suddenly remembered that a moment before Yu Qing was helping Lin Feng. Besides, he had persuaded the seniors of the Yu clan and the Wanshou sect not to attack Lin Feng. Also, why were the Yu clan constantly avoiding killing Lin Feng directly and instead shifted the responsibility to the Wanshou sect? At that moment, Wu Zhen suddenly had countless questions. What was going on? He had also heard that the third elder of the Yu clan, Yu Qiu, had had his cultivation crippled by the owner of the lovesick forest. After that, one of Duan Wuya's faction killed him. Why did Duan Wuya choose to offend the Yu clan because of Lin Feng? Immediately after, Wu Zhen had the feeling that he was understanding the situation much better. Besides, he was growing more surprised as he thought about it. 18 years old, at that moment, Lin Feng was 18 years old. Could it be a coincidence? Wu Zhen had the feeling that he had been tricked and was just a pawn for the Yu clan who had persuaded the Wanshou sect to kill Lin Feng. If his conjectures were right, Lin Feng was her son. Under such circumstances, could he kill Lin Feng? If he did, wouldn't she come and kill him? It had been 18 years already and nobody knew what cultivation level the four most dazzling geniuses had. Wu Zhen had heard that the one from the imperial clan had already reached the peak of cultivation and that nobody could rival him in Xueyu. As far as she was concerned, she had always been considered as the second strongest cultivator of Xueyu. 18 years had passed, nobody knew how terrifying her cultivation had grown. On the path of cultivation, age didn't matter. The stronger a cultivator became, the older they would live. Natural abilities weren't always enough to progress. After reaching a certain cultivation level, there was a bottleneck. It became more and more difficult to move higher. Sometimes, a few years or even a few dozen years were necessary to break through to the next layer, step by step. However, those who had extremely high natural abilities had a higher chance of breaking through those layers than others. Therefore, the biggest spheres of influences attached a great deal of importance to juniors. Even if they were much weaker than the elders of the clans and sects, the disparity in strength between them and the elders was growing smaller and smaller with each day. At some point, the juniors would surpass the elders. That moment meant the beginning of a new era for the clan or sect. The more gifted the juniors were, the faster the differences between the juniors and seniors disappeared. For example, in the Wanshou sect, there was one disciple who was one of the 8 high officials. 3 years previously, he was much weaker than the seniors of the sect, but after 3 years passed, he was much stronger than some of the elders, because some of the seniors had already stagnated on their path of cultivation. Therefore, nobody dared to look down on those 4 outstanding disciples who had disappeared from sight 18 years ago. The fact that they almost never appeared caused people to be scared. They were so mysterious. At the moment when Lin Feng's dragon appeared, the two ferocious beasts, the winged tiger and the condor lion, suddenly looked terrified. The dragon roar seemed like it was attacking the hearts of the two ferocious beasts. "What is the real name for your spirit?" asked Wu Zhen while staring at the six-headed dragon. "It's called Celestial Fangs," said Lin Feng, sounding indifferent, which made Wu Zhen's heart twitch. His last hope had just been crushed. Celestial Fangs, one of the 9 dragons. As expected, the blood of the Yu clan was flowing in Lin Feng's veins. That spirit was a blood spirit. "We do not need to fight today. Let's put all of this behind us. What do you think?" Wu Zhen remained silent for a moment and then suddenly said these words. He no longer wanted to fight against Lin Feng, no matter who the stronger person was. He believed that his father would understand. Killing Lin Feng for the prestige of the sect because of a few worthless disciples wasn't worth it. If the Wan Shou sect killed Lin Feng, they would have to deal with her. Not fight. Put this behind us. Lin Feng was astonished. He didn't understand why Wu Zhen would suddenly say such things. However, he had already released his 2 spirits and his battle energy was burning all around him. After being pushed into such a desperate state, was making peace an option? Wu Zhen, no matter whether he wanted to fight or not, would have to fight. "Lin Feng, I have the strength of the 3rd Xian Qi layer and possess a shaman spirit, and I practice lower moon skill. Even though you have a dual spirit, if you fight you are doomed to lose. I am also giving you a way out," said Wu Zhen when he saw that Lin Feng didn't want to accept. Wu Zhen was speaking like he was giving Lin Feng an incredible opportunity. "Well, thank you very much for your opportunity," said Lin Feng, whose eyes grew cold and emotionless. He then added, "However, I don't need it." When he finished talking, his 6-headed dragon rushed towards the 2 Xian-level ferocious beasts, the winged tiger and the condor lion. Roar! Roar! The 2 ferocious beasts were insanely struggling and managed to break free from the purple snakes. However, immediately after, more purple snakes wrapped around the bodies of the beasts, which had delayed them enough for the dragon to arrive and devour them. "The Celestial Fang spirit, as I thought, it can swallow any sort of ferocious beast," thought Lin Feng. His eyes were glowing with a dangerous light. Then, his dragon spirit moved back to his side. Multiple threads of pure qi started spinning around him, and in a flash, Lin Feng could feel how powerful his pure qi had become. That was the Celestial Fang spirit. It could swallow ferocious beasts and absorb their pure qi. Celestial Fangs. Wu Zhen's pupils shrank. Even though he was a disciple of the Wan Shou sect, it was also the first time that he had actually seen the power of the Celestial Fang spirit. His shaman spirit could control beasts, but the Celestial Fang spirit could swallow them and absorb their qi. Therefore, was his beast control useful? "How comfortable," sighed Lin Feng. After the Celestial Fang spirit devoured the beasts, it restored all of his pure qi. "How comfortable," sighed Lin Feng. After the Celestial Fang spirit devoured the beasts, it restored all of his pure qi. Lin Feng tried to recall the previous times when the Celestial Fang spirit had appeared. He had absorbed qi from the evil illusion, then the ice energy, then the purple lake, and each time he had penetrated into a strange dimension, each time his spirit would change. It was extremely strange. Each time the Celestial Fang spirit devoured a beast, it would also absorb its qi. The Celestial Fang spirit would also grow larger. At the same time it also created a new spirit for Lin Feng. The surplus amount of pure qi could help him break through to the next layer. "Now, my spirit has grown even bigger." Lin Feng was fixedly staring at Wu Zhen with unadulterated killing intent. Since he had led Wu Zhen all the way here, Lin Feng had already decided that he was going to kill him. "Lin Feng, you really want to fight?" said Wu Zhen while staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's battle energy was growing more and more powerful, but Wu Zhen was becoming more reluctant to fight. Lin Feng nodded indifferently. Of course he wanted to fight, he had brought Wu Zhen here to kill him. Wu Zhen remained silent for a moment and then released an ice-cold and evil qi. Since Lin Feng really wanted to fight, Wu Zhen wouldn't refuse. The problem was that he already didn't feel like killing Lin Feng anymore. If he killed Lin Feng, he would make her furious. It wasn't worth it. Defeating Lin Feng and beating him into submission would be enough. The two of them were facing each other in a stare down. One was emotionless and cold, the other looked bestial and cold. These two both had eyes that looked dangerous, neither of them looked human. Die! Shouted Lin Feng in a deep voice. The purple lake started to roar once again and rushed straight towards Wu Zhen. At the same time, the six-headed dragon moved through the air above Lin Feng. It looked terrifying. Wu Zhen looked like a ghost. He retreated backwards. He really didn't look human anymore. It was as if he had transformed into an evil spirit. Lin Feng flew through the air, his purple lake rushed towards Wu Zhen. It suddenly increased its speed in an attempt to surprise Wu Zhen. Wu Zhen started to retreat. He couldn't understand what Lin Feng was planning. You said that I was running away from you, what are you doing now? Said Lin Feng in a mocking tone while moving forwards. Wu Zhen was moving through the air using his shaman spirit. He was extremely fast as if he had become a spirit in the wind. Lin Feng couldn't compete with Wu Zhen in terms of speed. After all, the difference of their cultivation played a huge factor. Wu Zhen looked cold. The dangerous bestial eyes of the shaman were staring at Lin Feng. However, at that moment, Lin Feng was looking in front of him and didn't seem to be scared at all. He wasn't affected by the shaman's eyes at all. His two dark eyes were like monoliths that were impossible to move. His eyes were like black holes. The shaman couldn't influence his soul. Wu Zhen was becoming frustrated. His shaman could attack the soul of his opponent, but it was useless against Lin Feng. Wu Zhen could also control ferocious beasts, but against Lin Feng it was useless. Lin Feng seemed like he had become the shaman's worst nightmare. Wu Zhen raised his hand and an ice-cold white light condensed in the palm of his hand. On the shaman's spirit, some threads of light were also condensing and the light was growing colder. Cold. How shockingly cold. Wu Zhen had managed to make Lin Feng shiver. Lin Feng looked at Wu Zhen's hand. However, Wu Zhen wasn't trying to hide the fact he was gathering power for an attack. He wanted Lin Feng to witness his power. Lin Feng, since you definitely want to fight, I'll show you my dark devil strike. Shouted Wu Zhen while moving through the air like a ghost. Not only did he stop running away, but he was charging in Lin Feng's direction again. That ice-cold energy made a few of the purple snakes freeze and shatter into small pieces. Roarer, the six-headed dragon roared and then the six heads rushed towards Wu Zhen. However, the eyes of Wu Zhen's shaman were still releasing a dazzling light which enveloped his body. Then the six-headed dragon attacked the ball of energy and the dragon was actually immediately frozen. Wu Zhen is more monstrously powerful than I thought. When Lin Feng sensed that piercingly cold ice energy, he moved back. Wu Zhen merged with his spirit and rushed forward with his ball of cold energy to attack. The dragon broke free from its prison of ice and roared while moving towards Wu Zhen, joined by the purple spirit. Wu Zhen ignored everything around him. His ghostly body was still moving forwards. In his eyes, there was only Lin Feng. Huh? Lin Feng frowned. Wu Zhen was ruthless. He was forgetting about defending and focusing on his attack. He was using his spirit to increase his speed to attack first. I offered you peace, but you didn't listen to me and insisted on fighting. Since it's that way, Lin Feng, you will have to suffer my fury. Wu Zhen was glaring at Lin Feng. He raised his hand filled with ice-cold qi and it seemed like it was moving closer to Lin Feng. Inside that ball of ice-cold energy, there were many threads of white qi, which looked like writhing snakes. You want to risk your life, I will play with you then. Said Lin Feng, whose eyes were still emotionless. Suddenly, an explosion burst out, flames violently burst from Lin Feng's body, and pure sun qi bombarded the atmosphere. The lower sun skill and the lower moon skill were both being used in close proximity with the other. The burning sun chi started to condense. Lin Feng and Wu Zhen both raised their hands. In Lin Feng's hand, there was a ball of pure sun chi. The flames then gradually turned black. In Lin Feng's pitch-black eyes, it seemed like a black fire was suddenly ignited in his eyes. What a terrifying fire! This time, it was Wu Zhen's turn to make a move. He started to condense more of his pure chi into his dark evil strike. That strike had the power to completely destroy Lin Feng. That strike could kill him instantly if it landed with its full power. But he hadn't thought that Lin Feng would do the same. He was also condensing all of his pure chi into a ball of black flames in his hand. Those flames gradually turned into a lotus flower, a black lotus in blossom. That must be how Du Yan died, said Wu Zhen while frowning. He couldn't sense the power contained within the black lotus, however, he still felt the danger when looking at it. That black lotus was definitely extremely powerful. I have the strength of the third Xian Qi layer. My dark evil strike uses the full power of a lower moon skill. Lin Feng has broken through to the first Xian Qi layer and can use a lower sun skill and can condense its power into that black lotus. It can't be stronger than my dark evil strike, which has the power of the third Xian Qi layer, thought Wu Zhen. He wanted to see how strong the black lotus that killed Du Yan really was. Dark evil strike, destruction. After spitting out these words, Wu Zhen raised his hand and it slammed it down, bombarding the atmosphere towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng also punched through the air and the black lotus shot forward to meet Wu Zhen's attack. CRRR. CRRR, the dark evil strike and the black lotus collided and a cracking sound filled the air. An incredible quantity of deadly energy burst out and rose into the sky. The deadly energy burst out in each direction and the atmosphere started to shake. The black lotus had penetrated into the dark evil strike and was burning it, which made Wu Zhen frown. He had broken through to the third Xian Qi layer while Lin Feng had broken through to the first Xian Qi layer. How could Lin Feng's pure sun qi be stronger than his pure moon qi? However, was the black lotus really just pure sun qi? The grim fire of Lin Feng's celestial spirit had also merged with the sun qi to create the black lotus. It had incredible destructive power. A deadly energy invaded the skies. Lin Feng and Wu Zhen's facial expressions gradually changed. The deadly energy created from the collision of attacks was incredible. The trees beneath their feet were gradually disintegrating and turning to dust. Both of them looked unmoving and determined at that moment. There was nothing to be said, only the sounds of destruction filled the air. Back! Lin Feng suddenly realized that the deadly energy was going to destroy everything, including him. Wu Zhen had the same idea. He couldn't control that much deadly energy. Lin Feng and Wu Zhen retreated backwards at the same time. Their souls were shaking from the near-death experience. However, Lin Feng hadn't given up. He still wanted to kill Wu Zhen. His celestial fang's spirit roared and descended from the sky behind Wu Zhen. The six-headed dragon and the purple spirit moved in synchronization towards Wu Zhen. Die! Lin Feng's emotionless eyes were releasing a cold killing intent. Nothing could prevent him from killing Wu Zhen, and the desire to kill him was raging in his heart. The shaman spirit released a white dazzling light. It wanted to stop the six-headed dragon as well as the purple snakes rushing towards Wu Zhen. Roarar! The shaman moved into the bright light, which seemed to make the dragon and the snakes furious. At the moment when Lin Feng was watching in the distance, the purple spirit and the dragon started to fuse together, which made the sky tremble. Meanwhile, their roars were also merging into a single roar as they attacked towards the shaman spirit. With a single bite, the shaman spirit was gone. With another bite, Wu Zhen was devoured by the dragon as well. At Mount Sword, the Wan Shou sect was still silently waiting for Wu Zhen to return. At Mount Sword, the Wan Shou sect was still silently waiting for Wu Zhen to return. The Yu clan had seized the vein of the earth. the Wanshou sect and the Yu clan were not attempting to fight over it. Even if they fought, they probably wouldn't be able to get it. Nobody dared to gamble when it came to the strength of the Yu clan. At that moment, the crowd was gazing into the distance with impatience in their eyes, especially the members of the Wanshou sect. They all looked terribly impatient. Hidden in their impatient facial expressions was a ruthless coldness. However, after a long time passed, a few members of the Wanshou sect started frowning. How come Wu Zhen hadn't returned? These core disciples knew how strong Wu Zhen was. Killing Lin Feng wouldn't be a problem for him. However, did killing Lin Feng require so much time? Wu Zhen had been gone for a long time already. Maybe Wu Zhen killed Lin Feng and is now trying to tame some ferocious beasts which he come across. Thought Ting Wu Yao. He also had a strange feeling, why hadn't Wu Zhen returned after so long? However, because he had absolute faith in Wu Zhen, he didn't think too much about it. Besides, the others were also impatient to see Wu Zhen come back with Lin Feng's head as a trophy. Time passed slowly and the members of the Wanshou sect grew more and more impatient. They couldn't bear it anymore. Wu Zhen and Lin Feng had disappeared from sight. They couldn't remain calm as they all wanted to know the result. I should go and see, whispered Teng Wu Shan in Teng Wu Yao's ears. Teng Wu Yao glanced at him and thought of the Yu clan, then immediately shook his head while saying, no need, Wu Zhen is more than capable. Nothing will go wrong. Teng Wu Shan slightly nodded and moved back half a step. He didn't add anything else, he just continued waiting calmly. Time felt like it was passing extremely slowly. Teng Wu Yao, I think that you won't need to wait anymore, said Yu Qing Shan indifferently. Maybe Lin Feng had managed to escape and Wu Zhen hadn't come back because he was still searching for him. When Teng Wu Yao heard that Yu Qing Shan was making fun of them, he pulled a long face and immediately said, could Lin Feng escape from Wu Zhen even if he wanted to? Even though he was saying the word, he was no longer confident with what he was saying. He rolled up his sleeves and looked in the direction of the depths of the mountain chain. He then started walking and followed the qi left by Wu Zhen. We'll come too, said Yu Lu Shui indifferently. His silhouette flickered and the entire Yu clan started following closely behind the members of the Wanshou sect. They then penetrated into the depths of the Nine-Dragon Mountain chain. They also wanted to know if Wu Zhen had killed Lin Feng or was still searching for him. Yu Qing Shan's eyes twinkled, he then moved forward and said indifferently, let's go. The Yu clan followed the group. After that, the other people remaining also followed that large group of people. They could follow the great powers of influence of the country along the road, that way they didn't have to be afraid of ferocious beasts on the way. It would be a great opportunity to explore the depths of the mountain chain that they had never seen. Besides, they were also very curious to see the result of Lin Feng's battle. The four cultivators of the Xian Qi layer who were with Lin Feng were staring at each other. They could finally relax. They took a deep breath, they were finally safe from being killed. Perhaps the members of the Wanshou sect wanted to kill them, but the person they wanted to kill the most was Lin Feng. If Lin Feng hadn't been here, we would be dead by now, thought the four cultivators. They were very grateful to Lin Feng. If Lin Feng hadn't been there, they would have been killed by Ji Feng. Fortunately, Lin Feng had been strong enough to protect them during the battle. At that moment, Lin Feng was standing in the air and looked like he was lost in thought. At that moment, under Lin Feng's feet was a scene of destruction. The area around him looked desolate and apocalyptic. Everything living in the area had been destroyed and nothing but rubble was left. The area was empty of life and not a sound could be heard. The collision between the grim fire and the dark evil strike had had such incredible destructive power. At that moment, Lin Feng's heart was still pounding with fear and astonishment. His black lotus was too terrifying. At the same time, Lin Feng was also dumbstruck because of his spirit. His celestial fang spirit and his purple spirit had surprisingly merged and had become so monstrous. The combined spirit swallowed the shaman spirit and even swallowed Wu Zhen whole. Wu Zhen and his shaman spirit were eaten, the only one left at the scene was Lin Feng. The celestial Fang's spirit had 6 heads and was surrounded by purple energy. It looked incredibly powerful. Can spirits merge? Thought Lin Feng, his heart abruptly started pounding. He had suddenly realized that there was a problem. People who had dual spirits were geniuses on the path of cultivation. Could it only be because of the dual spirit giving a stronger soul? If someone had 2 spirits and one of them was useless in battle, what was the point of having 2 spirits? Lin Feng knew that the spirit was a part of the soul. People with dual spirits had extremely strong souls, but was that the only reason that dual spirits were so revered? Lin Feng suddenly realized that he knew almost nothing about spirits and souls. On the path of cultivation, there was a vast amount of knowledge for a person to acquire. The many paths of cultivation were unfathomable. In the continent, everybody was trying to become a strong cultivator, but in the end, who was really attempting to reach a complete understanding of the many paths of cultivation, to stand at the very peak of power? For example, in Shuiyu, a cultivator of the Xian Qi layer was already considered strong. Besides, those who were above the 5th Xian Qi layer could be considered as the most incredible cultivators of the entire country. They were regarded as deities. Lin Feng had never heard of anyone who had broken through to the Tian Qi layer. But in the continent, cultivators of the Xian Qi layer were considered the same as cultivators of the Qi layer in Shuiyu. They were just like insects compared to the other cultivator on the continent. How many people remained a big fish in a little pond their entire lives? How many people only had a superficial idea of cultivation? There were many questions about spirits. Why were cultivators born with a spirit? And why did some spirits awaken before others? Lin Feng didn't understand any of this. Lin Feng slightly shook his head as he emerged from his thoughts. He had only broken through to the Xian Qi layer. He had no right to be proud of himself. He didn't have the strength required to wander the continent. What I need now is to become stronger. I still need to break through to the Tian Qi layer and be able to look down on Shuiyu, then who will dare to bully me again? Whispered Lin Feng. Everything was happening because he was too weak. Lin Feng had been bullied and looked down on. He discovered a vein of the earth which was immediately stolen from him by force. What upset Lin Feng the most was that at the moment when the Yu clan and the Wan Shou sect were fighting over the vein of the earth, Lin Feng, who had discovered the vein of the earth in the first place, wasn't even been qualified to say anything or intervene. He had no strength and no power supporting him, so he didn't have the right to speak. He needed to become stronger, stronger than anyone. That was Lin Feng's innermost desire, and he was absolutely determined to make it a reality. He wanted to look down at the world from the heavens, so he needed to become extremely strong. He could only rely on his personal power to reach the heavens. Divide! Shouted Lin Feng in a low voice. He saw the celestial Fang's spirit and the purple spirit separate. The 6 heads of the dragon were looking to the sky, and the purple dragon formed. Its eyes looked ice cold. They both once again looked like separate entities. The qi of my spirit has become weaker, but when the different spirits merged, it seemed like an incredible change was about to happen. Thought Lin Feng. A moment before, his desire to kill Wu Zhen had reached an extreme. He subconsciously forced the 2 spirits to combine, which abruptly increased their strength. The mixture of the purple spirit and the 6-headed dragon spirit was extremely powerful. It was able to swallow Wu Zhen and his shaman in an instant. How terrifying! Huh! At that moment, Lin Feng's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. Immediately after, the celestial Fang's spirit started to writhe. An evil bestial qi started to rise into the air as the 6-headed dragon started to roar. On the body of the celestial Fang's spirit, a long tentacle was slowly rising into the air. Gradually, that long tentacle transformed into another head on the dragon. The celestial Fang's spirit only had 6 heads before, but at that moment a 7th head had formed. This is the shaman. Lin Feng abruptly frowned. The 7th head and the 6 other heads were different. The new head of dragon looked ice-cold and bestial. One of its eyes was black and the other was white. Amazingly, it was the shaman spirit. The shaman's spirit had been swallowed by the dragon and was transformed into another head. It had become the dragon's seventh head? Lin Feng's heart was violently pounding. How incredible! Before, with his celestial Fang spirit, he had been able to absorb some ferocious beasts and Meng Qing's ice chi. They were all things that granted him an extra spirit. The evil illusion spirit, the ice spirit and the purple lake were all created after the dragon consumed chi and replaced the previous spirit. This time, his celestial Fang spirit had swallowed the shaman's spirit, but it didn't replace the other spirit. Instead, it had become a head on the dragon. The shaman's spirit had become one of the dragon's heads. The shaman's spirit had become one of the dragon's heads. Lin Feng remained silent for a while as a radiant smile appeared on his face. Before, he was relying on his celestial Fang spirit or his purple spirit to kill any ferocious beasts he encountered. But at that moment, if he used the shaman spirit, he would also be able to control ferocious beasts. What a coincidence! I am in need of a ferocious beast which can fly, said Lin Feng while smiling innocently. With his strength of the Xian Qi layer, Lin Feng could also fly through the air, but he had to consume pure qi to do so. He couldn't continue to fly for long periods of time. His speed would also begin to slow over time as his pure qi diminished. If he had a ferocious beast which could fly, he would be able to fly through the sky as much as he wished, and at a fast speed. It seems like I should be grateful to Wu Zhen. Lin Feng walked forwards and gazed into the distance. Immediately after that, his silhouette flickered and he rushed deeper into the 9-dragon mountain chain. Wu Zhen hadn't returned yet. The Wan Shou sect would probably come to see what had happened. He killed Wu Zhen so he should avoid encountering the Wan Shou sect again, otherwise, they would try to kill him. Therefore, Lin Feng couldn't head back to the vein of the earth. Besides, he also had to remove all traces of his qi before leaving. The Wan Shou sect specialized in hunting and taming ferocious beasts, so they probably had a way to track qi. In fact, Lin Feng's guess was correct. Teng Wu Yao and the others could track Wu Zhen's qi to find the location of the fight. The members of the Wan Shou sect and the other powers all arrived at the scene of the battle. When they saw the destruction and huge crater that was created, people frowned. Deadly energy, they could still feel traces of a monstrously powerful deadly energy. Everything in that area had been turned into ashes. It looked like some kind of natural disaster or huge battle had occurred. It's Wu Zhen's qi, said Ting Wu Yao while frowning. What an apocalyptic landscape. How could Lin Feng have the power to fight against Wu Zhen and create such destruction? The members of the Wan Shou sect all looked extremely tense. Was this really the result of Wu Zhen and Lin Feng's battle? So many doubts filled their hearts, they just couldn't believe their eyes. They had all hurried to see the results of the battle, but in the end, they could still only guess, because Wu Zhen and Lin Feng were nowhere to be found. No matter if it was Wu Zhen or Lin Feng, all traces of their qi had been erased. It was extremely strange. Patriarch, there's some sun qi and some ice qi which comes from Wu Zhen's lower moon skill, said Ting Wu Shan to Ting Wu Yao, who nodded when he noticed. The sun qi probably belonged to Lin Feng and the lower moon skill was definitely the one which belonged to Wu Zhen. They were sure that Lin Feng and Wu Zhen had fought here, but it was possible for other people or ferocious beasts to have joined the battle. Lin Feng isn't dead, thought the crowd. Wu Zhen hadn't been able to kill Lin Feng, otherwise, Wu Zhen's qi wouldn't need to erase his qi and he would have returned to the vein of the earth by now. Since Lin Feng wasn't anywhere to be found and Wu Zhen's qi was gone, it was very likely that Wu Zhen was dead. The members of the crowd were all coming to the same conclusion. Immediately, their hearts started pounding. The members of the Wan Shou sect were particularly shocked. They also came to the same conclusion as everyone else, but they didn't even dare to think about it. But why else would the qi of both fighters disappear? If Lin Feng killed Wu Zhen and then erased all traces of qi before leaving, it would explain the situation, but they didn't dare believe that such a thing was possible. It would be too shocking. If Lin Feng hadn't been killed by Wu Zhen, it obviously meant that he had luck on his side, but did he have the strength to kill Wu Zhen? Move forwards, let's keep searching, said Ting Wu Yao in an ice-cold tone while pulling a long face. Even though his voice didn't tremble, the crowd could still sense that he was feeling extremely anxious. Maybe Wu Zhen had really been killed by Lin Feng. Otherwise, why would his qi just disappear? When the members of the Wan Shou sect heard Ting Wu Yao, their hearts were racing. Immediately after, they nodded and their silhouettes started to flicker and they moved deeper into the depths of the Nine-Dragon Mountain chain. The members of the Yu clan all looked perplexed. Lin Feng was surprisingly alive. The person they had deemed an insect, a nobody, did he really have the power to shock them? Yu Qingshan's white hair was fluttering in the wind. He was drowning deep into his memories, so many similar events had occurred in the past. Back then, Lin Feng's father, Lin Hai, was a tough young man just like Lin Feng. He had gone through many dangerous situations where his life was at stake, but in the end, he was sealed by the Duan clan. Yu Qingshan would see Lin Hai whenever he looked at Lin Feng, they looked very similar. The following day, Lin Feng didn't even know how far he had traveled. He only knew that the place he was at looked like the very depths of the Nine-Dragon Mountain chain. It was a very remote area. Lin Feng was being extremely cautious while moving forwards. He was using his earth fusion so he kept his head clear and remained observant. He could perceive everything around him and sense every movement. He had already come across ferocious beasts as he traveled through the mountain chain. Besides, some of them had been incredibly horrifying. He didn't dare to approach it, he decided to take another way and remain as far away from the beast as he could. A place filled with ferocious beasts could be a paradise for cultivators, but it could also be hell. There were incredible opportunities, but danger was lurking in every direction. Nobody dared to come into such a place and act recklessly. If Lin Feng hadn't been able to use his earth fusion, he wouldn't have dared to come so close to such strong ferocious beasts. Ferocious beast, three-eyed evil wolf. At that moment, Lin Feng noticed three bloodthirsty eyes were glowing. The wolf had three evil-looking eyes on its head. The three-eyed evil wolf was an extremely rare ferocious beast and it was also extremely strong. His third eye was particularly sly, it could unleash an attack to confuse its opponents. However, Lin Feng, in the depths of the mountain chain, had already seen a lot of three-eyed evil wolves. Unfortunately, the three-eyed evil wolf doesn't have wings. Otherwise, I would have loved to tame him, thought Lin Feng. At that moment, the three-eyed evil wolf had stopped and glanced around as if it had noticed that something was observing it. Its senses are very sharp. Lin Feng's silhouette flickered and he was not looking at it anymore. After a while, the wolf finally walked away. Lin Feng smiled and when he was about to move forwards, he came to an abrupt stop. Impossible, thought Lin Feng while frowning. Someone was spying on Lin Feng. At that moment, Lin Feng had the sensation that he was being watched. How could it be? How could my senses be wrong? Lin Feng frowned. When he was in fusion with the earth, his senses were extremely acute. He then searched into the distance but he could only sense grass and the extremely thick and dense jungle. Nothing. Lin Feng was surprised. His senses were extremely well developed. When using his earth fusion, his feeling of being watched on couldn't be wrong, but when Lin Feng tried to search, he sensed every blade of grass and gust of wind, but found nothing. He hadn't discovered anyone watching him. Besides, the feeling of being watched had also disappeared. It was extremely strange. Lin Feng's facial expression returned to normal, he slightly shook his head and continued moving forwards as if nothing had happened, but he was traveling with more vigilance than ever. The feeling of being watched invaded Lin Feng's heart again. He frowned and stopped. He slowly looked around. He had surprisingly forgotten to search deep into the ground. A moment before, he had the feeling that something deep in the earth was watching him. "Come out," said Lin Feng, sounding cold and detached. Not far away from Lin Feng, the ground trembled and immediately after, a silhouette burst out. When Lin Feng saw the silhouette, he started to frown. It was a ferocious beast. It looked extremely strong and majestic. It had a fire-red fur and its hair looked like sharp needles. On its back, there was a set of red wings which it then spread through the air. That beast looked extremely dangerous. That ferocious beast looked similar to the demonic fire lion, but it looked much more majestic and more impressive than the demonic fire lion. Lin Feng searched his memories about ferocious beasts and frowned. The people feared and worshipped the demonic fire lion for two reasons. Apart from its monstrous strength, it also had the blood of an ancient ferocious beast. They were a subspecies of an ancient ferocious beast. Rumors said that these ancient ferocious beasts were not extinct, but no one knew exactly how many were still in existence. It was extremely rare to see one. Ancient ferocious beasts were priceless. Its fur was like an armor of needles and its body was fire-red and looked like the body of a muscular ox. Its back possessed a pair of majestic fiery red wings that seemed to contain fire chi. It looked incredible and dangerous. And it appeared in front of Lin Feng. What a rare occurrence. It was an ancient ferocious beast, more precisely a winged tiger. It was an ancient ferocious beast, more precisely a winged tiger. Lin Feng was surprised. The demonic fire lion was just a subspecies of this ancient beast. With its potential, the winged tiger could easily reach the Tian level. How strong was it? The winged tiger had the blood of some ancient ferocious beasts. Its strength had to be monstrous. At that moment, when Lin Feng glanced at the winged tiger, the beast was also staring at him. Its eyes were filled with brutality. It was dangerously looking at its prey. A fire-red illusion suddenly surprised Lin Feng. He took a step backwards and his body was suddenly sent spinning through the air. Psh! Blood splashed through the air. Lin Feng's clothes were ripped apart and a huge wound appeared on his chest. That attack tore deep into his flesh. He was covered with blood. A cold sweat started to form on his back. Lin Feng wasn't even able to avoid the attack. He was fixated on the winged tiger. How terrifying! Lin Feng was just realizing what a huge mistake he had made, a terrifying mistake. Lin Feng was so excited to see the winged tiger that he had forgotten to remain vigilant. He couldn't play around when dealing with an ancient ferocious beast. The beast immediately attacked him and Lin Feng was wounded. "Oh!" howled the beast, as if it had come from the depths of hell. It looked extremely cold. It looked like a tiger and a wolf at the same time, which made Lin Feng raise his vigilance and release a cold energy. Psh! An illusionary fire suddenly appeared. This time, Lin Feng reacted quickly enough and immediately dodged. However, at the moment when the silhouette of the winged tiger flickered next to Lin Feng, it abruptly opened its wings and rushed towards Lin Feng with its gigantic body. Its attacks were perfectly synchronized. Every attack was planned perfectly by the beast and left no escape. That beast was extremely cruel and aggressive. Its senses were also more acute than those of human cultivators. Lin Feng was stupefied. Lin Feng couldn't dodge. The speed and acute senses of the winged tiger were terrifying. Even if Lin Feng knew how and where the beast was going to attack, he couldn't dodge without encountering another attack. Some pure sun qi suddenly emerged from Lin Feng and rushed towards the winged tiger. However, it seemed like the winged tiger ignored it and immediately dove into the flames. Lin Feng quickly rushed back in retreat. Boom! The sound of something breaking and cracking filled the air. Blood gushed from Lin Feng's mouth and his body was smashed through multiple tree trunks until he finally came to a halt. Lin Feng slammed his feet into the ground to stop himself from flying back. He was fixedly staring at the winged tiger while slowly walking towards him. At that moment, Lin Feng was sure that the winged tiger was much stronger than him. It was a Xian-level beast, but no matter if it was in speed or strength, it far outmatched Lin Feng. It had a monstrous speed which made Lin Feng feel hopeless. Lin Feng couldn't fight against such speed. It also made Lin Feng realize that he was seriously lacking in agility, but it made him want to tame that winged tiger even more. A purple light illuminated the atmosphere and his purple spirit appeared. It turned into multiple purple snakes which started rushing towards the winged tiger. Lin Feng wanted to see how strong that winged tiger really was. The winged tiger was walking very slowly and staring at Lin Feng as if he was eyeing up his next meal. The situation looked quite ominous. The purple snakes quickly reached its body. Srrr. Srrr. The fire in its wings started to flicker and unleashed its power, destroying the purple snakes on its body. The winged tiger hadn't been hindered at all. It was still moving towards Lin Feng with a hungry look in its eyes. What a monstrously strong beast. After the purple snakes were destroyed, they lost all their power. Usually cultivators could restrict a beast's movements, but in the case of the winged tiger, it was useless. You're mine, thought Lin Feng, looking excited. The more powerful the winged tiger was, the more excited Lin Feng became. His celestial fang spirit appeared and each dragon head let out a terrifying roar. Behind Lin Feng, his dragon had a head which didn't look like the 6 others. It looked dangerously cold and bestial. It was the shaman spirit. The winged tiger looked at the dragon and looked extremely surprised. Its feet then immediately stopped moving and it abruptly moved back. Whoosh! The body of the winged tiger looked like an illusion as it opened its wings and went to dive back into the ground. It looked magnificent. Roarar! The dragon heads were roaring, then the 6 heads suddenly started to rush towards the winged tiger. In a flash, the 6 dragon heads had all sunk their teeth into part of the beast's body. Roar! The winged tiger roared and it suddenly looked much more ferocious and wilder than before. It was incredible. Its needle-like hair then rose and transformed into extremely sharp blades which pierced into the dragon. At the same time, scorching hot flames ignited on its body. Whoa! The winged tiger uttered a long shout while looking at the sky. Its voice echoed into the distance. Some fire then separated itself from its gigantic body and burst into the air. The dragon wouldn't be able to stop that attack. Oh no! That's bad, thought Lin Feng. The shout of the beast would probably attract a great deal of extremely strong ferocious beasts. Ancient ferocious beasts were terrifying. Lin Feng had never encountered such a cunning ferocious beast. It also seemed like Xian-level beasts were particularly scary. The 7th head of the dragon whistled and moved towards the winged tiger. The shaman spirit started to glow which made the winged tiger start to panic. It was as if its soul was being consumed. Its huge eyes were gradually becoming more docile, as if that evil bestial glow was forcing it to submit. Could an ancient ferocious beast submit that easily though? Awoo! The winged tiger raised its head to the sky and howled. Its prey, a human being, was trying to control it. How could it not be enraged? A terrifying light invaded the atmosphere and the winged tiger suddenly spread its wings as wide as possible. They were so sharp that they sliced their way through the mouths of the dragon. Then, it immediately threw itself towards Lin Feng. Boom! The dragon tried to stop the attack but was unable to withstand the strength of the winged tiger. When Lin Feng saw that, he was dumbstruck and his pupils started to shrink. That winged tiger was monstrous. Lin Feng recalled his spirit back into his body and jumped through the air. The winged tiger spread its wings. Its silhouette flickered as it tore through the air like a meteor. Lin Feng couldn't beat it. His celestial fang's spirit coupled with the power of the shaman's spirit was not enough. The winged tiger's strength was too terrifying. Little one, who made you so furious? At that moment, a voice spread through the air which surprised Lin Feng. A moment before, he had been so focused on the winged tiger that surprisingly a silhouette had appeared without him noticing. Lin Feng looked to the horizon and saw a middle-aged man in white clothing who was slowly walking towards him. That person was smiling, but that smile looked evil. The winged tiger, when it saw the silhouette, lowered its head and immediately moved towards the middle-aged man. The winged tiger, after arriving next to the middle-aged man, started to wrap around his legs, as if it submitted before that man. "Little one, you ran away again," said the middle-aged man while smiling and shaking his head. The winged tiger lowered its head even lower. Then, the middle-aged man crouched down to pet the winged tiger in a soft and gentle way. His speech was very warm and affectionate, as if he was talking with a friend. Lin Feng was standing in his original position and frowning. There were humans in the very depths of the Nine-Dragon Mountain chain. Surprisingly, there were even humans in this remote location. Besides, that person even seemed to be the master of the winged tiger. It was too amazing. Lin Feng looked extremely perplexed. He wasn't able to fully understand the middle-aged man's intentions from the warm expression in his eyes. He had absolutely no idea why the middle-aged man would appear in the depths of the mountain chain. Besides, the middle-aged man almost seemed like he had always been there and Lin Feng was trespassing into his home. "Little one, next time, don't run away and cause trouble," said the middle-aged man. Immediately after, he raised his head and looked at Lin Feng with a friendly smile. He looked like a person who was easy to get along with. "My friend, do you come from the outside?" asked the middle-aged man indifferently. Lin Feng nodded. "Do you like my little one?" asked the middle-aged man and then added, "My friend from far away, if you want to see what the Nine-Dragon Mountain chain had to offer then you can come with me, but this little one is my best friend, he will not leave my side." "I acted without thinking, I didn't know it was yours," said Lin Feng while slightly shaking his head. "No problem, I will show you around the Nine-Dragon Mountain chain," said the middle-aged man while shaking his head and smiling. Surprisingly, he wasn't offended at all. Lin Feng couldn't read the man at all. Lin Feng, of course, didn't know what kind of spirit his interlocutor had or how strong he was. But if his pet was a winged tiger, he was definitely an amazing cultivator with an incredible strength. When Lin Feng heard the man's invitation, he was a bit surprised. Did he live there? Did the bestial-looking middle-aged man live in the depths of this mountain chain? What about his own safety? Besides, he was proposing to show Lin Feng around the mountain chain as if it was a normal thing. He sounded like he knew the mountain chain. Could a human walk around in the depths of the mountain chain as they pleased? "Where do you live, sir?" asked Lin Feng in a very polite tone while remaining vigilant. The situation could turn very dangerous. Lin Feng didn't feel reassured at all. "Near here, come with me, we can talk and play some chess," said the middle-aged man with a beast-like smile, yet it also looked like a very warm smile. He was nodding while looking at Lin Feng. Immediately after, he turned around and started walking. Lin Feng remained speechless and irresolute for a moment and then followed the man. A moment before, the winged tiger roared so loudly that it wasn't safe to stay there anymore. Maybe there were many dangerous ferocious beasts who would rush there. The beast and the man lived together in a forest of stone. There were gigantic monoliths resting against each other, everywhere, and under a few of them, the man had established his residence. Everything was made of stone there. There were stone tables and chairs as well as wine cups made completely of stone. What gave Lin Feng a strange impression was that these tables and chairs made of stone didn't feel real. "Do you want to drink some wine and play some chess? It's not easy for me to get these things all the way out here," said the middle-aged man while walking towards Lin Feng and smiling indifferently. He also sounded quite proud of himself. The beast also followed him, but it wasn't enraged anymore and was just like a docile pet. Lin Feng was more and more surprised with each second. Everything was so weird. That middle-aged man was so unconventional. He was wild and unreserved. Another astonishing thing was the winged tiger. It was shockingly obedient to him. The ancient ferocious beast had become docile and affectionate around him. It didn't look like it had the tiniest bit of wrath. "My honored guest, please come in," said the middle-aged man sounding extremely attentive and polite. He was inviting Lin Feng into his home. Lin Feng approached the residence created by several monoliths. The inside looked very spacious, it even looked like a palace. The middle-aged man started walking and his body suddenly disappeared. In a flash, he appeared on an elevated throne on the other side of the palace. His hands were on the armrests, he looked domineering, looking down on everything from such a high spot. He looked majestic. "Honored guest, don't you think that my home is majestic and awe-inspiring?" asked the middle-aged man while spreading his arms out wide. He looked extremely majestic, which made Lin Feng's eyes twinkle. At that moment, the bestial-looking man looked extremely powerful, like a king. Indeed, very majestic and imposing. Nodded Lin Feng. The palace really looked like it was fit for a king. There were many flights of stairs all around the main hall. Everything was extremely vast and imposing. When the middle-aged man saw Lin Feng nod, he smiled as if he was really happy to hear Lin Feng's opinion. He then stood up and immediately arrived next to Lin Feng, which made Lin Feng's pupils shrink. How quick! A moment before, Lin Feng wasn't sure, but at that moment, he was sure that even when looking directly at the middle-aged man, he still couldn't see him move. He moved so fast that Lin Feng could not sense it. The winged tiger was already monstrously quick, but that middle-aged man seemed to be several times quicker than the winged tiger. As expected, he's incredibly powerful, thought Lin Feng, who was also wondering who this person was. Have you always lived in this mountain chain? Asked Lin Feng. He couldn't help but ask. Indeed, I've always been here. Well, it's been so many years that I don't know how long exactly, said the middle-aged man calmly while nodding. Why not go outside? Asked Lin Feng curiously. Go outside? Asked the middle-aged man with a mysterious smile on his face. I want to go outside. I want to go soon. When the winged tiger saw the middle-aged man's smile, it slightly frowned. It acted extremely brutal before, but at that moment, it seemed like it was docile and was curled into a ball at their feet. Xian-level ferocious beasts could understand human conversation, so it was very clear to the winged tiger what Lin Feng and the middle-aged man were saying. You want to go outside? Lin Feng frowned when he heard the middle-aged man. It seemed like he wanted to go outside but couldn't for some reason, as if something was preventing him from leaving. Lin Feng had a strange feeling building. Of course I want to leave here. Do you know how boring it is to stay here? Even if I have the little one with me, said the middle-aged man while hugging the winged tiger, which made the eyes of the beast look a little bit warmer again. The ancient ferocious beast could also be warm and affectionate. It wrapped itself around its master's body and slightly closed its eyes. That move made Lin Feng grow speechless. Was it still the monstrously violent and brutal beast from a moment before? At that moment, it had become so obedient and docile that it seemed like a house pet. But it's all right, I have a guest now. You can stay with me until I am able to leave, said the middle-aged man while raising his head and smiling at Lin Feng, which stupefied Lin Feng. Stay with him. Lin Feng didn't have time to stay in the middle of the mountain chain. He had many things to do. If you want to leave, let's go together and we can go now, said Lin Feng. The middle-aged man looked at him with a smile, yet not a smile on his face, and shook his head. Well, I may have to leave before you, said Lin Feng. How was he supposed to spend all his time there until the man decided to leave? If it was for a few days, that would be all right, but what if the middle-aged man wanted to leave in a year or longer? How could Lin Feng stay with him? No, you will stay here, said the middle-aged man while shaking his head, which made Lin Feng frown. Are you threatening me? Lin Feng sounded dissatisfied. There was something fishy about this. My dear, honored guest, I am not threatening you, but you must stay here. Do you know how long I have waited to finally have somebody else to talk to? Said the middle-aged man while contradicting himself. He was saying that he wasn't threatening Lin Feng, but at the same time he was also forcing Lin Feng to stay and keep him company. I have matter that I need to attend to, so I must leave. If I have the opportunity in the future, I will come back and visit you," said Lin Feng, forcing himself to remain calm and not grow angry. His interlocutor's strength was unbelievable. If he made him angry, it wouldn't be beneficial. The middle-aged man ignored Lin Feng and walked past Lin Feng while groaning. "Leave. Impossible. Absolutely impossible," said the middle-aged man while shaking his head. "Do you know how long it has been since I entered the depths of the 9-Dragon Mountain chain? 100 years. 1,000. I don't even remember clearly, but it was a long time ago, a very, very long time ago. 100 years. 1,000 years." Lin Feng frowned. 100 years, that was credible, but 1,000 years, how could that be possible? A cultivator of the Xian Qi layer could live 200 years, and even a cultivator of the Tian Qi layer could only live 500 years. 1,000 years. Lin Feng didn't know what kind of cultivators could live for 1,000 years. It had to be at least a Zun Qi layer cultivator. In the mountain chain, apart from the kill or get killed atmosphere, there is nothing interesting, said the middle-aged man who ignored Lin Feng's suggestion. He sounded like he was talking to himself. "It's nothing like your world outside where you can drink, play chess and court beautiful women. Here, there is only myself. I am sick and tired of living in the mountain chain where there are only wild beasts. I want to go outside." Go outside, these words were resonating in Lin Feng's ears. At that moment, the middle-aged man spread his arms wide and the winged tiger moved down to the ground. Then, he raised his arms towards the stone ceiling and shouted as if he was venting his frustration. The entire mountain started to rumble and shake, but it quickly became calm again. The middle-aged man had calmed down as well. "I want to go outside. It won't be that long now. It's not easy to find someone with whom I can chat and play chess. How could I let you leave? How great would it be for us to enjoy each other's company?" said the middle-aged man with a husky voice. He sounded like an animal. He turned around and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was also looking at him, and had the feeling that his head was going to explode. He only saw that at that moment the middle-aged man's pupils had turned red like blood. They were filled with bestial flames. Millions of veins had started to explode in his eyes and looked like a myriad of red threads. He looked ferocious and wild. His eyes and his face didn't even look like that of a human anymore. It was a beast. Lin Feng was speechless. That middle-aged man wasn't a man, but a ferocious beast. No wonder that he lives in a place filled with such powerful ferocious beasts and nothing happens to him. No wonder that he lives in a place filled with such powerful ferocious beasts and nothing happens to him. No wonder that the winged tiger is so afraid of him. Lin Feng suddenly understood a lot of things when analyzing what his interlocutor was saying. If he had already been there for a few hundred years, even 1,000 years, he would feel extremely lonely. Indeed, ferocious beasts could live much longer than human cultivators. Their lives were much longer than that of humans, especially powerful beasts such as the middle-aged man. After reaching a level where he could transform into a human, how could he not feel lonely by himself? These stone chairs, tables and the chessboard was probably a sign that he wanted to become more like a human. He wanted to have a normal human life and be part of the human world. The palace didn't stop shaking. Very quickly, the middle-aged man returned to normal. The palace also stopped shaking, as if nothing had happened. The middle-aged man was staring at Lin Feng with a cold and detached smile. That smile made Lin Feng feel very uneasy. It was said that only Tian-level ferocious beasts could transform into a human form and speak the language. The one in front of Lin Feng could do all these things, which meant that he was at least a Tian-level beast. If he entered the world of human beings, he would easily be able to create chaos in a weaker country like Xueyu. Only a cultivator of the Tian Qi layer would be able to fight against him. Lin Feng didn't understand why his interlocutor said that he was going to leave and wanted to go outside soon. Why couldn't he just go at that moment? Lin Feng calmed down and looked calm again. He then asked, "Sir, since you already transformed into a human form, why do you have to wait before going into the human world? Why would you have to stay here?" Lin Feng didn't have time to stay there, he needed to leave. Lin Feng didn't criticize the world of ferocious beasts either, they had their own culture and forms of wisdom. Besides, Lin Feng didn't think that humans and ferocious beasts were that different. Ferocious beasts were very cruel and brutal, but weren't cultivators bloodthirsty and cruel as well? Because I am still a ferocious beast. If people find out that I am a ferocious beast, they will try to kill me or make me into their pet whom they will use as a pet. I would become a pet and forced into slavery," said the man slowly, which surprised Lin Feng. Indeed, if a Tian-level ferocious beast appeared in the outside world, wouldn't there be even stronger cultivators who would want to capture him? The world of cultivators was large and didn't lack extremely strong cultivators. "But you said that you would be able to leave soon, why?" asked Lin Feng, who didn't understand. When the beast heard Lin Feng, he smiled in a particularly bestial way. He then glanced at the winged tiger on the ground. The beast just glanced at him while looking scared and remained motionless. It knew how monstrously powerful that middle-aged man was. "You really want to know?" asked the beast while turning around and looking at Lin Feng again. His smile was becoming more and more bestial. Lin Feng didn't understand what his interlocutor meant, but he slightly nodded. "Hee, I will tell you, there's no harm in doing so. I've been sick and tired of being a ferocious beast for a very long time. Now, I am about to obtain a human form and become a normal human," said the beast with twinkling eyes. His voice was husky. "I will finally be able to get rid of my bestial body and obtain an authentic human body." "Huh?" Lin Feng frowned. He would become an authentic human being. Could ferocious beasts become real authentic humans? "My honored guest, you still don't understand. Humans will always reign over the continent and everything in creation. Even though we, ferocious beasts, have a body more suitable for fighting than a human, humans can rely on their understanding, and then outstanding cultivators who are stronger than ferocious beasts appear. The potential of human cultivators is almost infinite, whereas ferocious beasts are doomed from their birth. Their talent and natural abilities never change, they can only rely on the destiny they were born with." Lin Feng calmly listened to his interlocutor. It was the first time that he heard about these things because he had never considered these things before. Actually, things were really like the man was describing them. Humans were able to cultivate to a higher level, even though there were incomparably strong ferocious beasts with terrifying strength. The continent didn't lack extremely strong cultivators, therefore, no matter how strong a ferocious beast was, there would always be an even stronger cultivator out there to defeat them. Therefore, humans reigned over the continent and not ferocious beasts. Ferocious beasts were already doomed from birth and could only rely on their bloodline. Human beings had unlimited potential, it all depended on how much effort they were willing to invest into cultivation. However, there are always opportunities. When ferocious beasts reach the Tian level, we have a decisive decision to make: partial or full transformation into a human. The human transformation is divided into two possibilities. One can keep one's beast body and temporarily turn into a human being. It's a bit like putting on a human disguise, but the chi that one releases is still bestial. However, the second possibility is to completely transform into an authentic human and leave one's animal body behind. At that moment, one doesn't have the intelligence of a beast anymore, but that of a human. One would lose the fighting power of a beast to gain the understanding of a human cultivator. Lin Feng was astonished. Two possibilities, one was to stay as a beast and the other one was to become a human. That was the first time that he heard that ferocious beasts could become human. So the human transformation process has already started for you? Asked Lin Feng. The Tian level beast nodded. He had already started transforming. Reaching the Tian level is like dipping your toe into the human world without being truly accepted by humans, right? asked Lin Feng, trying to find an explanation. The Tian-level beast was astonished and staring at Lin Feng with an evil smile. He then immediately continued, "You are very smart, but even if I tell you these things, what can you do? The first choice is very easy. Any ferocious wild beast can do it, but becoming human is another story. During the transformation process, the natural power of a beast body is removed. In other words, it means that I won't have the strength of the Tian level any longer. Besides, it is not guaranteed that the transformation will succeed. If it fails, my level will still be reduced. It's a once-in-a-lifetime risk." "As expected," whispered Lin Feng. The man had chosen the second option. While he was going through the transformation process, his strength was reduced. He wouldn't be able to increase his level during that period of time. On top of that, if it failed, his strength of his body would never return. Only ferocious beasts could understand how large of a risk it was. "Well then, how can you increase the chances of success?" asked Lin Feng, looking lost in thought. "Having contact with humans," replied the Tian-level beast, which astonished Lin Feng. "Which is the reason why you want me to stay here, right?" "Indeed, during the transformation process, you will stay here with me. We will have fun and talk together. It will be great," said the Tian-level beast, whose voice didn't sound husky anymore. He looked determined and evil. Lin Feng remained silent. The Tian-level beast had told him so many secrets, so he wouldn't be able to leave. If he left, Lin Feng could tell other humans who would come and kill him. Lin Feng didn't beg the Tian-level beast either. The man looked calm but kept his evil instincts and was as bloodthirsty as any beast. If Lin Feng infuriated him by accident, the consequences could be disastrous. At that moment, Lin Feng wanted to know something. After the ferocious beast finished its transformation process, what strength would it have? And what would its fighting ability be like? Ancient ferocious beasts are monstrously strong. He can make that winged tiger become as docile as a cat. Besides, he has told me everything already. Even if his level has been reduced, he still seems like he's monstrously strong, otherwise he wouldn't have shared the secrets with me. I can't afford to act recklessly," thought Lin Feng, warning himself. "Is there anything else you want to ask me?" "I will happily tell you," said the Tian-level beast with a husky voice while smiling in a more and more evil way. His eyes were turning red again. "No, there isn't," said Lin Feng while shaking his head. He had the feeling that he knew what the ferocious beast was going to say, so he didn't ask. "Are you sure?" When the ferocious wild beast saw Lin Feng's eyes, he said in an evil way, "Don't you want to know if I will kill you when I'm done with the transformation?" Lin Feng was stupefied. What an intelligent ferocious beast. Lin Feng really wanted to ask that question but didn't need to, as he already knew the answer. "I will tell you now. I will kill you. When I am a human, every human and ferocious beast who knows that I am a ferocious beast will need to die. I want to become a real human being," said the Tian-level beast while raising his head at the sky and slightly closing its eyes. His voice was still husky. Once he was a human being, beasts and humans who knew he was originally a ferocious beast would have to die. When the winged tiger, which was lying down on the ground, heard the Tian-level beast, it raised its head. What it was thinking wasn't clear though. When the winged tiger, which was lying down on the ground, heard the Tian-level beast, it raised its head. What it was thinking wasn't clear though. It also knew that if the Tian-level beast became an authentic human of the Tian-chi layer, he would kill the winged tiger. It knew that this was the case for a while. But, what could it do? Even though it was an ancient ferocious beast, its strength was still inferior when compared with the Tian-level beast, so what could the tiger do? Its gigantic eyes twinkled and it just continued lying on the ground, as if it hadn't heard the Tian-level beast at all. Its body curled into a ball. Lin Feng didn't pay attention to the winged tiger. He was only silently looking at the Tian-level beast. The Tian-level beast had immediately told him that once the transformation process finished, he would kill him. "Honored guest, let's not talk about such useless things. You are here now, so you are my guest, you also have to stay within 50 kilometers. During this time, we can chat, you can also play with the little one, it can even show you around the mountain chain and show you all the ferocious beasts. Besides, you will personally witness the transformation of a Tian-level beast into a human. Said the Tian-level beast, not paying attention to Lin Feng and or the tiger's emotions, otherwise he wouldn't have told them he was going to kill them. 50 kilometers, whispered Lin Feng. Indeed, 50 kilometers, that's your new home. If you leave that area, honored guest, I will be forced to kill you. Said the beast in an evil voice. Lin Feng nodded and immediately started walking. He walked past the Tian-level beast, he wanted to leave the palace. The Tian-level beast was stupefied and then smiled evilly. He also didn't try to stop Lin Feng had already followed them here, how could he escape? If he tried to leave, he would just end up dead. The winged tiger was quicker than Lin Feng, but the Tian-level beast always managed to capture it when it tried to escape, and by acting dominant towards the tiger, its nature had become more docile than in the past. Lin Feng just walked around randomly. 50 kilometers was big area and small area at the same time. In that area, there was nobody apart from the Tian-level beast and the winged tiger, as if it was a forbidden area. Ferocious beasts had a much more developed senses than human beings and marked their territory. How could such a monstrously strong ferocious beast accept other beasts entering its territory? These ferocious beasts didn't dare enter its territory anyway. In that mountain chain, the Tian-level beast could really be considered as the king. Lin Feng arrived next to a waterfall and then immediately sat down cross-legged. He calmly sat down next to the water and closed his eyes. He entered into a state of meditation, and it was as if the outside world had nothing to do with him any longer. Lin Feng sat there for 3 days, apart from taking out purity stones and putting them around him. Lin Feng remained motionless for 3 days, absorbing the pure qi of the purity stones. At the top of the waterfall on the cliff, there was a beast and a man. The waterfall was under their feet. They were also standing there, motionless, looking at Lin Feng. Obviously, it was the Tian-level beast and the winged tiger. Human beings can absorb the qi of heaven and earth, and by relying on purity stones, they can increase their cultivation speed, increasing the reserves of pure qi in their body. At the same time, they can use their heart and their power of understanding to increase their cultivation level. Said the Tian-level beast while looking at Lin Feng. Since he was going to become a human, he had to be familiar with their practices and habits. He had to understand what drove humans and needed to be in constant contact with humans. This was the only way he would be able to increase the chances of success during his transformation. Also, being in contact with humans didn't necessarily mean that he had to be in close proximity to them. Observing their behavior was enough. For the Tian-level beast, the most important was to understand what it meant to be a human. They practice cultivation much quicker with their high natural abilities. They are indeed much quicker than ferocious beasts. For beasts to progress, it's much slower. The Tian-level beast turned around and started walking, slowly leaving Lin Feng to practice. The winged tiger turned around and looked at the Tian-level beast. It waited for the Tian-level to leave and then suddenly jumped and landed in front of Lin Feng. It then started walking around Lin Feng, slowly, while looking pensive. What an idiot! Thought the winged tiger while suddenly stopping and crouching in front of Lin Feng and crushing a purity stone with its paw. Kacha! The purity stone broke. It seemed like the winged tiger sensed something. He was just staring at Lin Feng. You noticed it, didn't you? Said Lin Feng, and immediately after, he opened his eyes and looked at the winged tiger. The winged tiger was staring at Lin Feng, and slightly nodded. It could indeed see that Lin Feng wasn't practicing his cultivation, it was just a facade. In fact, Lin Feng had already broken through to the next layer. You noticed, but you didn't tell him because you secretly despise him and want him dead, right? Said Lin Feng while smiling. The ancient ferocious beast was cruel and proud, but the Tian-level beast had made him into a docile pet. It was going through hard times. The winged tiger had to act docile, friendly, and even hug the Tian-level beast. How could it not be filled with wrath? Lin Feng was almost sure that the winged tiger hated the Tian-level beast. The eyes of the winged tiger were filled with hatred. It was an ancient ferocious beast with a sacred bloodline, whereas the Tian-level beast was an absolutely ordinary ferocious beast. It had just been alive for a much longer time. It was thus monstrously strong and was able to capture the winged tiger as a pet. Who could understand how monstrous the pressure in the tiger's heart was? Who could understand how furious it was? However, it couldn't release that fury. Even if it tried, it was useless. You hate him, but you don't dare to say it. You have to act as a loving and docile pet. You thirst for freedom, but you are tied down, just like a house cat. You must be constantly looking for new opportunities to leave or kill him," said Lin Feng in a soft and gentle voice while trying to arouse the wrath of the tiger. The winged tiger looked more and more ferocious, cruel, and was fixedly staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's words gave the beast the feeling that its heart was being pierced with needles. "You don't need to get enraged. You are an ancient ferocious beast, a winged tiger. However, you are doomed to be docile your entire life. Until the day you die. His transformation process will come to an end soon. Maybe you will be lucky and it will fail, but can you be sure that he will not kill you before seeing the result? Therefore, the day of his transformation will be your last. You will never be able to live like a real ferocious beast." When the winged tiger heard Lin Feng, it slightly opened its mouth. Its sharp teeth looked like they could tear Lin Feng into pieces. "What's the point of being furious? If you don't want to die, there is only one solution," said Lin Feng while looking at the winged tiger's expression. He then continued slowly, "You must kill him. It's your only chance to regain your freedom. Only then will you have the opportunity to regain your freedom." Grr. The winged tiger growled in a low voice. Of course, it knew all these things. It could understand everything that Lin Feng was saying, but could it kill the Tian-level beast? If it had been able to kill the Tian-level beast, it would have done so much earlier. "We need to act together," said Lin Feng. "You need to tell me how strong he is now, and how advanced is his transformation process." Lin Feng's spirit emerged and one of the head of the dragon slowly moved from Lin Feng's back towards the winged tiger. It was the shaman spirit. Grrrr, a bestially dangerous light spread over the tiger and in a flash, it moved back and growled while looking at Lin Feng. Its eyes were filled with hatred and seemed like they could swallow Lin Feng. Lin Feng's shaman spirit was trying to control the soul of the winged tiger. "You can't kill him, the only thing you can do is wait and die. We have hope only if we act together, therefore, I need to know everything you know, so you need to let me control you for the time being. If we don't act together, we will not be able to escape and we will both die." Lin Feng was trying to convince the winged tiger, which looked ferocious and was coldly staring at Lin Feng. "I have a solution to deal with him, but I need to know everything about him. If you trust me, we can win. If you don't, we will lose everything. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, otherwise, you will continue to be a pet for the rest of your short life. Isn't that tragic for an ancient ferocious beast to die as a pet? Die as a pet." When these words pierced through the ears of the beast, its eyes grew even colder. Wasn't being a pet humiliating for an ancient ferocious beast? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.